Guys, today's podcast is in partnership with Stone & Co Solicitors, experts in serious and complex criminal matters. If you have a criminal matter that you need help with or you've been arrested and want the best representation, contact the number below or drop them an email. All the information is on the screen below, as you can see. Stone & Co can offer specialist criminal defense services on a private basis or legal aid, so you don't pay nothing. And as a promotional offer, they're offering a case review in person or over the phone, free of charge, no obligation, no fees, and they'll take a look at your case, guys. Welcome to the Kicking Up Dust Media YouTube channel, guys. Today I've got a very special guest, someone who spent a very long time in prison, and he spent the 22 years in the most harshest possible ways you can imagine in prison in the UK. In a kind of a regime most people don't understand, which is kind of beyond prison within a prison. 22 years, we're going to get to that. But before we do, I want to introduce the guest, Yusaf Patterson. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, brother. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity of actually being on your podcast as well. So I appreciate that.
Jazakallah khair. I want to thank Spray, because Spray is the one that put us together on the three-way call.
101%. I love that, brother. Assalamu alaikum, brother Spray.
We have a mutual friend, Ghost.
Yes.
Yeah, so
very, very good friend.
So Ghost told me about you about a year ago. He said, I have a friend who's come out of prison. I want you to interview him. And so he told me the outlines of the story. I was done like over 20 years and whatever. And I was waiting for him to get back to me. And then he said to me, the probation won't let him. Some restrictions you were under and things like that. And obviously then when I saw your name come up on the internet, I said, I think that's the same guy. And then I messaged Ghost said, yeah, that's him. And then, we all spoke and whatever. But like I said, I appreciate you for coming down. There's a lot to talk about.
Definitely. There's a lot to cover.
Lot to cover. I want to really, give the people just a quick summary, understanding of your background, where you come from or whatever. Your childhood or whatever. So can I ask, where were you born, where your parents from, where you grew up, and the basics?
Okay. No, definitely. First and foremost is I would like to start with, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praises is due to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His aid, and we ask for His forgiveness. Whoever Allah guides, none can misguide him, and whoever Allah leads astray, none can guide him. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is his slave, servant, and messenger. Allahu Akbar. Okay, so my parents are kind of first generation of this country, so they were actually born here.
Oh, they were born here, yeah.
So my grandparents came over, I think roughly, if my memory serves me correctly as well, I think it was in the 50s. Or it could be even slightly further back. So they were there. So
40s, 50s.
Yeah. So my father's side are actually St. Lucian.
St. Lucian.
And my mother's side are actually from St. Vincent.
St. Vincent, okay.
But it's kind of intriguing as well, because one of my other younger brothers as well, he does a lot of research. And my grandmother before she married my grandfather is Kwashi. So we actually, my brother done the research, because it was very strange as well at times. A lot of the Ghanaians used to actually say, oh, we know you're Ghanaian. Look at your forehead. And so forth.
Tribe.
Yeah, so my brother done his research, and we realized that from my grandmother's side, before she married my grandfather and became a Patterson, she was Kwashi. And they're actually the Gar people from Ghana.
Okay.
So, it was a how can I say this, exhilarating feeling, because at least I know that we can kind of trace some type of
lineage back.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, 101%.
So your parents were born in the UK, so they were first generation.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Whatever. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So yeah, I was raised in Southwest London. So I was raised in Clapham Junction.
Oh, that's where you were raised
originally. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that sometimes individuals don't understand that. A lot of people thought that I was just from Wandsworth Road near Stockwell, and they thought that I raised there all my life. But no, I'm actually from Clapham Junction.
Actually, on Clapham Junction. And did you go primary school and things in Clapham?
Yeah. So mine's kind of a mixed baggage, because yes, I went primary school, Falconbrook. which is Clapham Junction. But because of my behaviour, I was on the verge of being excluded from primary school. One of my issues that I've always had, and I know I've spoken about this already, was that I've always wanted to become a voice for the voiceless. I've always fought other people's battles as well, not only my own, but others. So during those times as well, and especially being young as well, you tend to engage with other young people, and sometimes not always in the best possible way. So I was on the verge. So there was only one other option. By the time I was about 5, my mother married to my stepfather, and they were actually living on Wandsworth Road.
Okay.
So obviously it makes sense. I moved with my mother and I went to school, actually, Wandsworth Road, St. George's, and then from there.
Okay. So you moved from Clapham. What age were you when you moved from Clapham?
Please, if my memory serves me correctly as well, I would say I was roughly about maybe 6, 7.
6, 7. When you said that you want to be a voice for the voiceless, I heard through a friend that when you were in prison, that you would kind of, if someone's getting in trouble, you would kind of like kind of support the person that was getting troubled. If you understand what I mean, like you would defend. So I think you say you had that trait from when you were young.
That's correct, yes.
Exactly. So it's kind of stayed with you through this. Cause someone actually, one of the first things someone told me about you was that you will stick up for the people. Like he'll be the first one to kind of like, speak out and whatever. The brother actually told me before I even met you, before I even spoke to you, the brother actually said that. And in school, what was your, like, how were you as a child? Were you misbehaved? Like, how were you, like, education wise and behavior wise?
Yeah, so education, from what they said, from what their analysis was, they said that I was highly intelligent. From my understanding, my grades were very, very good, but there was only one slight problem, that for some reason it was just, I couldn't really get along with young people my age, and I just kept on fighting.
Kept fighting.
That's correct, yeah. It could be it could be the slightest of provocation. For example, as well, let's say that the teacher is engaging in work and somebody's talking. I may tell that young person just to, could you please be quiet? And then obviously being young, our minds are immature. Then who are you telling to be quiet? And then all of a sudden there's a situation.
Yeah. So you were fighting from primary school, you said?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
Did that lead to you getting kicked out?
Yeah, so what actually happened is I barely survived primary school. So St. George's were on the verge of basically kicking me out. They've had enough. Then I went to secondary school. But before that as well, I actually got into 2 schools by doing entry exams. So one was Westminster Boys, and the other one was Emmanuel. And I actually, I passed the entry test and I went in front of the headmaster, but they were indecisive. They couldn't, I can see that they were so indecisive even at that time as well, because they probably wanted me as a student, but because of my behavior and so forth, unfortunately, they had to decline. So then what my mum decided to do as well, she didn't really want me to go to this any school locally. So what she actually done was she sent me to St. Mark's, and that was in West London. So I would have to travel from South London to West London.
Oh, wow. What age was this?
So I was 11 years of age.
How would you get from there to there on the bus?
Oh yeah, it was a bus. Especially in our times as well, we were very self-sufficient,
100%.
even as young kids.
Yeah, we get
it was just it was just one of those things as well. Your parents, it was kind of incorporated from their generation down to our generations in our 40s as well, that they would send you shop. You could go places because you understood the whole kind of geographical location as well. So yeah.
And I think our generation, we spent a lot of time outside from a very young age.
That's true.
Playing and stuff like that.
Climbing trees and,
I think a really important question for the context, how was your financial situation within the family at that time growing up?
Yeah, so it was It was okay because my father, he had his own company in painting and decorating, so he was making good money. My mother was making good money as well because she was a seamstress. So she used to work in central London. So, making gowns, making dresses for the wealthy. And so, yeah, we were, I can't lie. Sometimes people sit here and they say that, yeah, we went through this, we never
They're more
had
electric.
this, we never. No, in my case, I had those things.
So you had like trainers and clothes, and that you were cool for that.
Of course, I was spoiled as well. And
Alhamdulillah.
where that, alhamdulillah, and where that I was my mother's first as well. And I was one of the first out of the, my mother's side of family. So I was kind of like, everybody played a role
Because you were
in watching, in kind of watching my development.
the first son's always the special one, isn't it? In
I
my
don't know about
culture,
that.
in my culture, it's always the same thing. The first he gets priority.
I think every child's special though.
Yeah,
personally.
of course. And so you're going to school now from south to west.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
How was secondary school? What was the experience like?
Yeah, again, I think I've said this before. Like the first day, obviously, I caused such a commotion that half of the school was waiting to actually set the records straight with me, because I was just, I don't know, I was quite, how would I describe it? I was quite mouthy as well, and plus, I had that level of, that sense of not allowing anybody to take advantage. And it was this, young lady, her name was Tammy, and her friends that actually saved me from there. But then eventually, I built up a lot of friends. A lot of people respected me in my school as well. And then I got suspended.
You're still fighting though, like the same
that's
problem.
correct, yes. So the problems occurred, and then I got suspended. And then by I think you call it year 8, 12 years of age, I got excluded.
Permanently.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, my behaviour was just so unacceptable.
See, the fighting. What was their like kind of like diagnosis to why you were fighting so much?
Do you know, they're still, from what I can actually recall as well, what they were basically saying was that I just couldn't get along with other kids. So a lot of the times as well, I was actually separated from other children as well. I would spend a lot of time in the headmaster's office
Isolation.
doing my work. So I think that kind of prepared me for later years as well, of me being socially excluded, if that actually makes sense as well.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. And once you got expelled, now you're 12.
That's correct, yeah.
So what did you do for education?
So what actually happened in my times as well, there was a place called IT centres. So I went to 3 IT centres. I think there was one in Clapham Junction, one in Wandsworth, and one in Tooting. And unfortunately, story of my life again, behaviour with other children, I actually got excluded from them as well.
And then once you get to a certain point, that's it. No one will accept you after that.
That's correct.
Because then I think it's homeschooling sort of thing.
That's correct, yes.
And how did your parents feel about this at this time? Were they trying to figure out why you're doing it?
Of course, they were at loggerheads. But I think my mum reminded me as well, and I think even in regards to myself as well, I understood the cause of what the problem was when I was roughly about 10 years of age as well, and I was set upon by a group of kids. And when I cried out for help and assistance, and you tend to see adults as that kind of guardian, that kind of protectors, and nobody helped. So I understood that in my young, very primitive mind, that it was actually survival of the fittest. Now looking back and reflecting, being the age that I am, I understand that survival of the fittest is just a mere justification for destroying and oppressing people much weaker than ourselves. But at that time, going through that kind of horrific ordeal, I just saw that, well, I have no support. So obviously, especially in our times as well, we was always taught as well, you go for the biggest one. So my mum reminded me when she took me to the hospital, I then turned around and I said to her, it will never happen to me again. So I always had that kind of issue as well. That if somebody felt that, it's okay for them to, bully somebody, intimidate, violate that person, it's very close to my heart. So it affects me, it upsets me.
So what happened? You got jumped at 10 years old?
That's correct, yeah. So what actually happened was there were some kids that they wanted my jacket. I refused. And I weren't allowing them to.
Trying to rob you, basically.
Yeah, that's correct, yes. And obviously they set upon me.
Same age or older?
Somewhat older. It was a whole group. There were so many of them. It's like an avalanche. And you just always remember certain things like how some were laughing, how they were taking turns, how adults were walking past, and I just then understood that I needed to be the strongest.
That was probably the moment in your life where you kind of switched. You know what we done a show last week about a similar topic.
Okay.
About experiences growing up that affect you when you're older. Me and him, we did the show last week about it, and we were talking about stuff like this, about when you're young and an elder robbing you for like £2 or £3, and things like that.
100%.
And then you get to that point where, and we actually said in the podcast, like, I'm not having it. And that's basically what happened to you. You got that mentality, like, I don't care now, I'm having it. So the oppressed becomes the oppressor.
100%.
The circle changes and whatever. So 12 to 15, you're going to these IT centres, same thing's happening again. You're getting into fights, you're getting into drama, they're kicking you out. Now you're excluded. So is school over for you?
Yeah.
No GCSEs, nothing?
No, nothing. So what actually happened is, from the age of 12, by the time I'm 13, this is when I'm starting to have more, you could say, incidences with the authority, to which actually led me of incarceration, where I amputated another young person's thumb. He was a year younger than me.
That means you actually cut it off completely?
Yeah, it came off.
How did that happen?
So there was another group of kids, and to be fair, it was unjust. That's like looking back. But when you're so young, I just didn't like him. I didn't like his brother. But to be fair though, he didn't do me any kind of major wrong. It was just the fact that I don't like the people that you're with. Definitely don't like your brother. And then I just felt that
it just went there.
It just went there. And I know it's very difficult. Sometimes they always pose a question to me, like even psychologists there, but why? And I say to them, I pose a question to them as well. How old was I as well? You're asking a 13-year-old, why? We know you're young. Yes, as an adult now, looking back, it's horrific. That's every parent's nightmare, for kids to be hurting each other. But when you're that young as well, and obviously you're operating in different degrees of dysfunctional behavior, then what would you really expect? How do you expect me to answer that?
And you're already traumatized from things that happened when you were younger.
Of course, it's a cycle, and I'm not saying that it's justifiable as well in any way. It's not. Of course not.
You're 13, 14 years old now. You're getting into these constant issues of fighting, and the guy's thumbs gets chopped off or whatever. Was your first trouble with the law to do with violence?
Sorry, my criminal history sheet is very short. It's very small, as you know, because of the long time of incarceration. But I think my first, it was an ABH. It was an ABH and common assault, and I think they put robbery. So it was me and another young person that was my age, that we exchanged hats. We knew each other. Just exchanged hats. The next thing, he's saying that basically I robbed him. I said, why would I rob him? He's got my hat. I've got his hat. Yeah. And I look at my hat, was the same kind of quality and style as yours. I think I had the Chicago Bulls those times. So obviously I'm young. I'm not in control of my emotions. I approached him, and ended up in a violent altercation where that, he got hurt.
How old were you?
I think I must have been about 13.
13 years old.
13.
So hold on. So first he accuses you of stealing his hat.
Mm,
Did you get arrested for that initially?
yeah,
Also, when you've come out the police station, you've approached him.
that's correct.
Okay, and you've got into a physical confrontation, had a fight, and end up getting the better of him.
Yeah, I beat him.
And then you got arrested again.
No, then what actually happened was they said they also had a witness, and I realized that it was his cousin. So what I done was I slapped her, which I got done for the common assault.
So that was your first.
So that was kind of one of my first brushes with the law. And I think it also traumatized me as well, because obviously sometimes when you're young as well, you do have a certain attitude. Some people say swagger. And I think I was giving a police officer just a little bit like, oh, why am I? And I remember, I'll never forget this. In the van, they slammed me down in the van and they kept me pinned on the floor. And
13 years old.
Yeah. They called me every racist name under the sun and what they were going to do to me. I remember as well that being taken to the police station as well. And now looking back as well, I'm thinking my parents could have actually got compensation for all this as well. You're not supposed to put putting a child in a cell. They locked me in a cell. But it was just one of those things that sometimes, especially in our communities as well, our elders as well, that, it was like teachers and police officers can never do no wrong.
Wrong, yeah.
So you must have done something.
Right,
Oh,
wrong,
you
yeah.
deserve it. Because their experiences back home, but they're forgetting that it's a whole different culture from being back home, dealing with
That's
the
right,
law
yeah.
enforcement officers, compared to dealing with them there at that time. So yeah, this is when obviously I was traumatized by that and I had a dislike for them.
That's just natural. The people that's meant to provide justice,
100%.
if they're kind of doing that, the trust is gone, isn't it? You understand? They look you from that moment. They're your enemy.
And yeah, and you have to also understand this as well. Before that, I think there was one more, sorry, it's
There's
kind of
what-
hazy as well. There was one more thing as well, because there was a court order. So I went to a children's home. I was admitted into a children's home when I was 11. So my first offense was actually when I was 11.
Okay.
And what they said was that my family had no control over me,
Put you
which
into a home.
was totally incorrect. I have 9 sisters and 5 brothers. Not one of them has ever been in trouble with the law,
You've got 9 sisters and 5 bros, mashallah.
and not one has ever been in trouble. Listen carefully to what I'm actually saying. Not
Deep.
one has ever been in trouble with the law. So how can you blame it on bad parenting? It doesn't make any sense. I have lots of aunties and uncles, and they, they could have allowed me to be with one of my, with my uncles or aunties, but they chose not to. So what they done was they put me in a children's home, and sometimes children's homes are not always the best places in order to, to sometimes put those children.
There's other traumatized children in there.
Yeah, 101%. And not only that as well, and let's be honest, some of the adults that work in these places as well fail in their kind of duty of care as well. They're actually abusers as well. So you know that sometimes kids can be, very rude. But does it give an adult a right to punch a child in the stomach? That's child abuse.
100%. That was happening in the home you were at.
Yeah. So what actually happened is eventually when I went to, I think when it really started, because I went to one children's home which was very good. It was called Ebony House, and that catered for like Black and Asian children. So there was a lot of Black and Asian staff and so forth. So it was, you can relate, you can identify and so forth. But I think with the physical abuse was Stamford House.
I heard of that place.
Yeah. So, secure unit and so forth. So Stamford House. Orchard Lodge, and Vinnie Green, where they could be more hands-on now, because you're now classified not only as a, you could say, adolescent, not only as a delinquent, but you're considered as a criminal now. So for them, it's justifiable in whatever kind of measures that they basically implement on you. And that's what was actually happening, pulling your arms back. It was like, it was almost, the way that I can actually describe it was, it's like sadomasochist.
Power trip.
It was very weird though. It was just, looking back, I see young people and I'm just thinking, me as an adult as well, I could never envision myself hurting a young person in this way, irrespectively. You'd sometimes know that they can be mischievous and so forth, but they're children. Why would you want to bend their arms back? Why would you want to try to choke them and things such as that? So obviously it hardens you.
That's like a power trip. Some of these people, they're like kind of a bit like prison officers, isn't it? In these places, I think.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I think sometimes that power, authority they have over people, they want to physically show that, some bully boy kind of tactic sort of thing, you call it, or whatever.
You can't even call it that, because even when you describe it, bullying is abuse.
Yeah, 100%.
It's horrific.
At any point while this was going on, did they get you to speak to anyone, like a counsellor or anything like that?
Yeah, so what actually happened when I was, I think my first brush interactions with a psychologist was when I think I was about 7.
Oh.
So they said because of my temper, they don't know where this is coming from and so forth. So I had to do what they called art therapy with the psychologist. So I had to describe my feelings by actually drawing pictures.
I heard about this, yeah.
I always remember this though, when I was younger. So they would actually say to me, like, how are you feeling today? Could you draw it? Why are you so angry? And so forth. So yeah.
So it seems like for your whole early years, it's constantly fighting.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it seems from what you were telling me sitting here, we're talking dozens of fights. Not like 2, 3, 4, 5. We're talking like there's a lot of fighting going on throughout and stuff like that.
Always, yeah.
So once you kind of got to that point where you're not doing your GCSEs now, what you doing? Hanging out on the streets?
No, because you have to remember, when I amputated that young person's finger, I was within the custody of the authorities.
Oh,
so
incarcerated.
Remember, yes. Remember, I'm too young to go to Feltham Young Offenders
Institution. That's what I'm saying. I thought you couldn't go to prison if you were like a certain age or something.
No, but you go secure unit. And that's where Stamford House, Orchard Lodge, and Vinnie Green. Now, what they done, because it was such a sensitive case, they put me in Stamford House, but they put me on the other side. So that means that you still had more kind of flexibility of if you was escorted with an officer, what they call a staff.
Yeah.
That you could go shop and so forth. But remember, my case was very sensitive because we were both very young. We're minors. That's what they're basically saying. What actually happens, because sometimes people are trying to do the timeline and saying that, yeah, but then you've got another conviction for attempted bank robbery. That's the Abbey National. And that was, you got convicted for that in 96, 95. So but what they're failing to understand as well, that in 95, I absconded. So I absconded from there. And then I think I was back within the community. They were looking for me for about 3 months. Within that time, they accused me of doing a string of, I know that the government called it steaming.
Steaming, running the bank.
But we used to call it shabby in the Abbey.
Yeah.
This was a thing. This was a
South London thing.
Yeah, this was a phenomena that Brixton started it. Let's be honest here. Brixton started it, and then everybody followed through. From my understanding, someone may correct me, but that's my understanding.
I think you're pretty correct. Just for the viewers who don't understand what that is, that's running inside the bank, basically jumping the counter
That's
or the
correct. Yes.
screen, taking as much money as you can. Each individual person takes as much money as they can
That's correct.
and run back out. So they actually made it into an actual category, and they called it
right.
steaming
That's
because it was so common, and a lot of the people that were getting convicted were from South London,
Mm.
and it seems the origins were in around Brixton and whatever.
That's
So,
correct,
so
yes.
you're correct. So you're 14 years old at this time, roughly, right?
Yeah, 14.
You obviously were convicted of it, so you could talk about it. Why were you doing these robberies? For money? Like, did you need the money, or was it just because your life was just, when you get to a certain age and your life's going downhill, it's just going downhill. Anything goes. Like whatever your friends doing, you're just gonna do it with them. Like when people don't understand when you're young and naive, you don't really ask questions.
Mm.
Just do it and think about it later. So what was going through your mind like when you were doing these robberies?
I think it was a combination of things as well. Obviously, prior before that as well. So after that incident happened and I was set upon by all those children, I had an older brother. I still got an older brother. And he used to always say to me as well, you need to toughen up. And it was really weird as well. Now, if you look at the estate that I'm from, Patmore, it was like, in those days, it was like Switzerland. So they were okay with everybody, except for they didn't really like Clapham Junction. But so many different individuals from different areas would actually be there. And I remember there was these group of kids, and there were a lot of them. And there was one in particular that I always used to observe, and I said that I'd like to be like that. He just seemed all, everyone respected him and so forth.
Why? Your nice car? Like what's the reason?
And we're young, we're kids.
Okay.
But he just had all the crowd around him. It seems like
Okay.
everybody hanged on to his words.
Yes.
He was
the guy in that group.
yeah. Remember, we're young, we're kids,
Yeah,
we're tiny.
yeah.
But I always remember that. And then one day my brother said that, you know what? You've got a cousin that lives around there. I'm going to introduce you to him. And then basically he introduced me to my cousin. The same guy, the same gentleman that I was.
It turned out to be a cousin.
Turned out to be my cousin. So then I was also introduced to the group of kids that he was with. But they used to see me as this, little so-and-so's cousin or Tony's little brother. And then from there, things developed and manifested itself.
So this is the group of people you're doing the steaming with?
Allegedly. Yeah, there was.
Allegedly, yeah. Okay, so it's like you're part of the crowd basically now. So you're doing it with them. So you were actually in a secure unit, so they call it, and then you absconded and done these robberies and whatever, and they're looking for you again now. But now they're looking for you for the robberies and the assault.
I've done one, yeah.
Oh yeah, the one robbery, yeah. So what happens when you get arrested?
So I got taken to, if my memory serves me correctly, please forgive me if I went Orchard Lodge. So that's another secure unit. And then obviously I was the same repeat cycle happened again and again and again. Just kept on fighting.
In the secure unit?
Yeah, with other children.
What did you get for all that?
So by the time, this is what they done, they were very smart. By the time I hit 15, they sentenced me to 5 years. For the...
So now they can send you to prison.
Yeah, and I had 3.5 years concurrent. So that's the steaming. 3.5 years concurrent with my 5 years.
Okay. So how long you got to serve out that 5?
So usually it's 3 years something, but remember, altogether I've done like 5 years. Because I've been locked up.
That's a hefty sentence for a 15-year-old.
101%.
So very hefty. I've never really come across that before.
This is correct.
Whatever. And where did they send you once you got sentenced?
Oh, Feltham. So
that's the last place to go. That was known as just the madhouse, especially at that age there.
100%. I considered it like a baby fight club. So
Baby fight club. That's a good name.
It was. I think I think one of the things that actually dawn to you though as being such young as well is having someone else look at your nakedness. So when you're going through reception and the officer's telling you to squat, this was
Violation.
this was like very new, and you're thinking, what? Are you allowed to do this? What's going on here? And you know that you try to cover your modesty, and they're saying, move your hands. We want to see that you haven't got anything concealed. And you're just thinking, is it really? So yeah, I think what was an eye opener for me as well when I went there so young was some of the people that I really respected and idolized. That yes, on a tiny little estate, you had status, but somewhere as big as Feltham, where there was other young kids, young and angry children, let's be honest here, they're
All
children
over.
all over the country, that they were literally nothing. And that kind of dawned to me as well, that how they would so easily accept violation, what we would consider, and but when they're back on their estate, they're intimidating, they're bullying, they're acting like, and then you see them with their true essence. Everything's removed from them. All the, you could say all the masquerading, all the things that they hide behind. Now you're just basically seeing them in the flesh, and you actually see how actually weak they are as individuals.
When you were in Feltham, you were 15 years old. You turned Muslim very young. I heard that part.
Yeah.
Did Feltham have a part to play in that?
Of course, I was very close friends with a brother named let's just call him Jamman. So we called him Jamman, and he was very close, and he was Bangladeshi, and he would always articulate in his kind of version of what Islam, but it kind of made sense to me. Even though he was articulating Islam in maybe at that time, I apologize, brother, but at that time he's kind of limited knowledge on it, but it still made sense because I was always an inquisitive person. So I'm a type of person as well that I would always like to, but why? And in our times as well, they had this kind of mentality that children are supposed to be seen but not heard. So there was a lot of unanswered questions. And it just kind of made sense. And then obviously me being who I am and how I've been taught by my family, I done my own kind of research. I went to the mosque, saw the imam, I listened to his khutbah, and then I just thought, this is definitely for me.
And this was pre, before, now obviously we always hear about the Muslims in prison. This was before all that, right?
Definitely.
This was like, I would even say like the Muslims in prison at what 96, 97?
Oh yeah, so 96.
96. So Muslims were tiny minority in prison, like a very small minority, probably like 1,000, around them numbers. So you took the Shahada very young in Feltham because of this brother giving you dawah, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
MashaAllah. And big him up still,
No, of course,
Jam,
definitely. Jam man, I love you.
Do you still speak to him now?
I would love to know where he is.
Well, the social links are in the
Please, if anybody knows where Jam man
what
is,
ends
please.
was he from?
He was from East London. He was from Poplar.
Okay. You might see this, man. You never know, inshallah.
Yeah, no. Good brother.
How was the experience in Feltham? Because I know, like you said, it's very violent, and you're doing a long sentence as well. How long did you spend in there from your sentence?
Oh, so what actually happened was I was kind of fortunate because I was under the youth justice team, which there was a lady by the name of Vicky Staton. So she was like a surrogate mother, and she was like, "No, I don't want him to stay there. I want to try to get him back into a secure unit because remember I'm still 15. I can still go to a secure unit
Technically,
yeah, technically. So she actually got me into a secure unit. So from Feltham, I actually left Feltham and I went to Vinnie Green. This was in Bristol. But again, story of my life. I never lasted too long. I think there was in Vinnie Green, there was massive disparities. There was a lot of Welsh guys,
Bristol's the wrong place to go to a secure unit.
and they had certain issues concerning,
Your
and
colour.
obviously being, yeah, of course, and especially being young as well. I'm not going to be saying that the whole of the, you know,
Yeah.
the Welsh people are, but I'm saying that at that time, the particular individuals that I was actually dealing with, they were that way inclined. And so obviously our natural coping mechanism was to reject that. And by rejecting that was going into hand-to-hand combat. And so that's what basically happened.
Fighting from the jump straight away.
No, 100%.
You know what the big problem was as well, and this is not really talked about at all. The prison system didn't do nothing about racism. Racist rhetoric was okay.
101%.
They would never like discipline someone for race. I've never seen, especially them days, because I went to prison when I was quite young. They would never discipline for it.
Of course not.
And whatever. So what choice do you really have?
Mm.
They're not going to deal with it. You have to deal with it, or you are going to become a victim.
Because you have to also understand the mindset of the people that you're actually dealing with as well. And sometimes it's unfortunate for them as well, because they're so very narrow-minded and rigid-minded, and the kind of geographical location that they're from as well, they're used to hearing those types of language. So when somebody is actually throwing the N-word or the P-word, they're thinking that, well, where I'm actually from, that is a norm. So it's acceptable. But we know it's not acceptable, and we're not accepting that. So this is where the problem lies. And so this is where the problem lies as well, that, okay, from when you're accepting it and you're supposed to have a duty of care, so when you stop believing a system that is supposed to serve and protect you, then you become a vigilante.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then you're saying that, okay, so right now, I'm going to take that badge of you being a civilian now. Now you're also an enemy. So this is where the problem lies.
Goes, yeah.
And so, unfortunately, these are the things that were actually occurring, and especially at such a young age as well.
And like I said, it's like you kind of have to take it into your hands, or it's not going to stop.
No, of course
They
not.
will do it every single day, you know, until you do something about it. So once they kicked you out of that secure unit, straight back to Feltham.
Yeah. But it was a weird one though, because I'll never forget. There was one kid in particular, and he was like, he was older than everybody, but because of his crime and how long he's been, they kind of like kept him. He was about 17. And he was like, obviously he's older, he's bigger, you know, that like, so
Them 2 years makes a massive difference from 15 to 17, yeah. Because you're growing up, aren't you?
Yeah. And he was like their pride and joy.
Okay.
And I knew that one day we were going to clash. And then he said the forbidden word. He called me the M word. I'll never forget this, because I remember it was kind of Christmas times. So then what I actually done was we crashed into the Christmas tree. And I always remember that because obviously. And then they said, enough's enough, we're going to move him. Not actually saying that, well, wait there, these other kids are the problem. They're the ones that, so they got rid of me. But it was actually weird, because they were asking the staff at the time to pack my stuff, and they actually lied to me, and they refused to do it.
The staff actually refused to do it, yeah?
Yeah, to pack my stuff.
Because they knew you were defending yourself.
And then, obviously, you know, the person that was in charge, he gave them an order. He said, listen, you need to pack his stuff, he's going. And I'll never forget as well, being so young as well, they called me into the office, and then I had Feltham officers there waiting for me. They handcuffed me.
At the secure unit?
Yeah, they handcuffed me, and they put me onto the van. And I remember going onto the van as well. It was like just like a little minibus. And I'm thinking, look at that. I had so much luxury.
Secure unit.
You do. You're still locked. Like, you know, at night time you're locked behind. But
compared to Feltham,
you had like a television, you had a computer. Now I'm going back to Feltham. 23. Like, you're lucky. It's like, you know, it's like 23 hours. You're behind your door. But you have your hour association, especially if you're like remanded and so forth. But remember, it never lasts as an hour because there's always a fight.
Right, yeah.
So you're always gonna be behind your door.
Feltham was like it was a very violent place.
Of course it
And
was.
it's like they kind of let the violence happen, sort of thing.
Mm.
They knew it was violent for
Of
years.
course.
They never did nothing about it. I think it started changing when Zahir Mahmood died. Zahid Mahmood. He was the guy that was killed by his racist cellmate in his sleep. Killed him to death, and that's because that brought the public attention. Like,
I remember that gentleman as well.
Oh, you met him, yeah?
He was in solitary confinement as well.
Zahid Mubarak, sorry. Forgive me, sorry, Zahid Mubarak. I don't know why I forgot that, but yeah.
The individual that committed that atrocity against him was in solitary confinement as well.
They beat him to death the morning he was about to get out of prison. The Muslim kid was getting released. That brought some public attention, and they had to try to control the violence and whatever. And a lot of the young people watching this podcast don't understand, when you say it was a luxury, them years there was no TVs in the cells, there was no electric apart from the light on your ceiling, right?
That's correct. So what you would actually have in my times as well, that association would be the time when you would go into like a TV room, you'd watch the television, and those times I think it was Jerry Springer.
That's exactly what it was.
But yeah, you wouldn't. There was no such thing as television. 9 times out of 10, if you was convicted, it was a bit different because you would go to like there was a regime, so you could go to education, you'd be on works, but normally it was 23 hours behind your door, and you're talking about kids here. Nowadays, they would never accept that for kids for being behind their doors for such a long period of time. It was actually ruthless. Even the SEGs was different in those times as well. Their ruling was different. So, for example, as well, you're in a SEG, the governor is giving you 6 days or however long. Those 6 days were one of the longest in your life, because what happens is, in the morning, I think it was roughly, if my memory can serve me correctly, about 7 or so, they'll take your mattress.
That's right, yeah.
So they're preventing you from sleep. That's like sleep deprivation.
You can't lie down.
You can't lie down. That's correct. I remember even cleaning your floor as well. They'll give you a big bar of soap and you would have a brush, and that's how you would clean your floor.
And make the bed pack.
Yeah, the bed. Oh yeah, the bed pack. Yeah. So the blankets, the sheets, the pillow over the
And they come assess it, is make sure it's right.
That's
if
correct.
it's not, you got problem.
101%. And not only that as well, I remember exercise as well. Like if you do exercise as well, they make you just jog a lap and then come back. It was all weird. And nowadays you would call that child abuse.
100%. Like at no stage, because you were fighting so much, it seems, yeah. At no stage did they not say, okay, look, we need to look into this. This is kind of a bit, it's not normal for someone to be fighting this much. There's obviously other issues connected with this trauma, whatever, whatnot. So did no one come while you were in prison and try to address it?
Yeah, so what they basically done was as well, they did have another psychologist. But again, it was just exactly the same thing. I think they do a lot of focus on your family. So it's just like, oh, so how's your mother? How's your father? That's not the root of the problem.
They're looking to put the blame on someone.
Yeah, of course. So it's, name and blame.
How was your mum dealing with it? What, you were in prison? You're the only son that's been in prison. Like you said, the other kids are well behaved or whatever. How was she dealing with it?
It was a very stressful time for the family as well. Especially my mum was a young mother. So it was very difficult as well. Her trying to piece together, like, what's gone wrong here? I've done everything to try to support my son. I've made so many different sacrifices, but my son is still behaving in these mannerisms, which I just don't understand. My father as well, he was finding it very difficult as well.
Were you kind of like distant from them as a person? Or would you engage and try to talk to them?
No, I would. I was close with my family. I'd always used to, make them laugh, and I'll do silly things like,
Yeah.
dancing in front of them, and just
Yeah. Kid stuff.
it was kid stuff. So there was nothing like me feeling excluded or
Black sheep.
socially
Yeah.
excluded and the black sheep. No, they actually loved me.
So this was just your own internal trauma that you was kind of unleashing out to the
That's
public,
correct, yes.
basically. In Feltham, sometimes people from your type of neighborhood, they have an okay time in there because so many people from the local area that how was it in Feltham for you individually?
Yeah, I was. To be fair, you know what tends to happen? You tend to band together with individuals that have the kind of same philosophy as you.
Yeah. Exactly what
So there
happens.
was like a little team, but the team that consists of was from all different little areas. It's just that if you had that mindset, I have respect for you, and
Stockholm, Gypsy Hill, Brixton.
but it went even that, because I got along with a lot of people from beyond just being South London, if that makes sense. I've just always been like, for me, geographical, like I've always known this from a very young age. It never really made sense for me. I'm thinking, okay, I'm fighting for a particular estate or a particular area that we don't own.
Well, you knew that from young, yeah?
I knew that from young.
Yeah, that's good.
We don't own. There's no associate, there's like
no like allegiance there.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, and what is the objective as well? When you're doing what you're doing and you're moving in different degrees of dysfunctional behavior, you need to understand what your aims and objectives are. And what is it? And then when you get older, you understand that your aims is to try to make money.
It's the only reason to be on road.
It doesn't make any sense other than that, because then it becomes bad. You're looking over your shoulder. You know that there's many other, aspects involved that it just doesn't make any sense. And you start to understand this, and even like group dynamics as well, and people that you may think that are your friend, that in your moments of need, you know that these individuals are not even there for you. It's nothing. It's just like,
it's fake.
I would even say, look, I'm not even going to criticize them as well, because let's be honest, we all love a hero. We all want a hero. It's like the Superman effect, isn't it?
That's true.
You want somebody that protects the area. We understand that. And when he goes away, you try to find somebody else.
Replace him.
There has to be a hero and there has to be a villain. This even on the estate as well. There's people that say, yeah, he's the man. I liked him. But then you might meet another individual. Now, we don't really like him. He's kind of a bully boy. You always need a hero and you need a villain. And
you got a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, that's true. You need that person in the area that can kind of resolve problems when they occur.
101%. And it just got to, so with Feltham as well, there was a lot of things that kept us occupied, because remember, I then got moved to Dunlin and Eagle. It was on Eagle.
That's separate houses, right?
Yeah. So this was like long-termers, young offenders, like long-term serving.
That's the worst combination.
So no, but it was, I tell you, it was like a family.
Would you say you were fighting less in that environment?
Yes, on the wing, but when you step off the wing, or one of your, how can I say this? One of my rugby teammates or one of my friends are engaging with somebody and we'd all band together. You know what tends to happen in prison as well? That if you have an opposition, so if you're in a conflict with an individual and you happen to be on the wing before that individual arrives, then 9 times out of 10 as well, that most individuals are gonna back your cause because they know you, and they don't know him. So then there's a problem for that particular individual.
Exactly, yeah.
So you know how the whole dynamics works.
Yeah,
of course.
Did you stay in Feltham for your whole sentence, that 5 years? Once you're back there now?
No, so yeah, once I'm there, I stayed throughout.
You were released from there?
I was released from there. So and that was in 98.
Well, how old were you when you get out? 17?
18.
18. So you're like an adult now, like in UK terms or whatever.
Yeah, the whole dynamics have changed now. So definitely.
So you're 18. You're Muslim.
Mm.
See, the Dean at that time, did you have knowledge about, like, like, obviously, I know you're Muslim, but did you learn anything in there? Or was it like, I'm Muslim, but not with, you're not really implementing it?
Yeah. So I I fully acknowledge myself as a Muslim, and there was occasions where that I would actually read a lot of stuff in English, and but I felt that at that time it was very disheartening as well, because when I got released, you could actually say that I was in for a big surprise. I realized that how the communities were so divided.
The Muslim communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example, as well, I would enter a mosque, and it may have a particular racial group in that mosque, and they would automatically look at you like, what are you doing here?
Mm.
They would not want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, ankles to ankle.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
These things were very disheartening. Also, you might explain something to them, what you've read, and you know that they're actually doing it wrong. And they will turn around to you and say that, well, what do you know about Islam? Because my father's father's father was Muslim. What was yours? Not understanding that if we really went into if we was to really explore the history of Islam, then that person would actually be humble.
What year was this?
So this was 98.
Oh, 90. Oh, that is the lack of knowledge at them times, especially, I think what you're referring to is a lot of the cultural mosques, masjid, sorry. Yeah, you're definitely going to get that type of attitude.
No, 100%.
They're kind of anyone from not within their culture. They're not really showing much love. They didn't even show love to their own youngsters from their own community.
Of course, because it was based on ignorance.
Yeah, 100%.
So they had but the confusing thing was as well, is a lot of them would actually articulate as well and say, oh, you're just a revert. Not understanding that some of the greatest people that ever walked the face of this earth were reverts. Abu Bakr Siddiq, Umar ibn Khattab.
The companions,
alhamdulillah, they were reverts. So what are you saying? Are you saying that you have a higher status than them? Are you really going to go down this path? Are you really going to go down this rabbit hole?
What it is, a lot of people don't understand from outside the community, especially every community has their own internal politics going on.
100%.
So what it was, my particular community where we come from, Pakistan, is basically the mountains. Kashmir. Yeah. Most of the Pakistanis in the UK are from Kashmir. I will say 75%. When we say mountains, this is the mountains. You have to drive around the mountains to get to a certain place. So they came from somewhere with no education. Not much religious education. It's more cultural Islam. That's not based upon knowledge.
That's right.
And no dunya education at all. Really. Not much in basic things like electricity is not, especially them days when they came over, in the 50s and 60s and whatever. And they believed in something they didn't realize it, but they had a very harsh character anyway. For example, most people from my background, in my community, the father has never told the son, I love you, son. Yeah. That's not something that's done. It's just, this is how it's done, and you follow that, Yeah. And if you don't listen, you get lashes. That was kind of how it kind of worked, I don't know any friend that wasn't beat up as a kid. When I say beat up, I mean not a slap, around the ear. I mean you getting beat up,
No, I understand that.
And whatever. So even with us, we're from their community. They were very tough with us, very hard. We would get beat in the masjid. If someone was doing that now, you would go prison for that, because this is real beatings and whatever. So you being an outsider wouldn't understand that dynamic, So when we were getting taught in the masjid when we were young, none of us wanted to be there. We had to go there. We didn't understand Islam ourselves. We just knew you got to go there, read, and just leave as quick as possible, and you're probably going to catch lashes while you're there. So their discipline was based upon harshness. Like this is the way to, and it was wrong what they were doing, but they knew no better because that's how they learned. But they never realized we're in a whole different environment in the UK. We got a whole, this is not the village. This is a whole different, we're leading like two lives. So you as an outsider coming in, they're definitely not going to show you love because they're not showing us no love. You understand what I mean? And whatever. So very kind of stubborn, wouldn't really listen and take advice or whatever. Alhamdulillah, things have changed and they're moving, forward. Like, you're talking 90s. Yeah, that was tough in the 90s, because that's the days when I went to the mosque as a kid. And the amount of times I got beat personally, ridiculous. And
so you can imagine me being a young person as well, trying to make changes in my life as well, and just feeling rejected. So rejected in the sense of that it just seemed at that time that the Caribbeans was at the very bottom. So I just thought, again, this is where the stubbornness and everything else, not knowing that it's just a reflection on those individuals. It's not the whole reflection of Islam in itself. It's just the people that I've encountered. But because I've encountered that, I'm thinking, forget them. I still believe in this, but I'm just gonna go to who showed me love. And so then I continued in my activities.
And in the 90s as well, there wasn't as many reverts as now. It was a fairly kind of like
that's true,
a new thing. You understand what I mean? And sorry, yeah, and you're right. You're gonna naturally feel rejected because you've learned something from the books that you think this is pure, and it is pure.
Yes, it is.
And you're 18, you're a kid, you're still very immature in your mind. You go there, and you're seeing they're not showing no love, and that's gonna kind of like that's another form of rejection,
But we have to also understand, and it's good that you touched upon this subject as well, because the religion is perfect, but man's not.
100%.
So we all need to understand this as well. We've all got our flaws. So you can't just pinpoint just one community, because you can see that in each community has their problems. And this is why that I love what the brother said as well, that charity starts at home.
100%, yeah.
Fix your home first before you start pointing the fingers.
That's true, yeah.
So this is why I've always said to myself as well that when I made those transitions as well, that I want to fix my community. I want to help build it because I helped destroy it. So this is what my aims and objectives are.
MashaAllah.
So yeah.
And people, you get people who are very, how can I put it, what's the right word to use? You have people that live in misery. They're very negative people.
100%.
They'd be like, but you done this and you done that and now you're saying this,
Yeah, 100%.
And the answer to that is, I'll give a statement of Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu anhu. I'll summarize it because I'm not a scholar, I don't know it word for word. But he said sometimes you can't appreciate Islam until you've seen that extreme darkness. That extreme jahiliyyah. And then you appreciate what the religion is. So he made a statement like that, and I always remember that statement. And it's like, look, when I was young, we would have some Muslim brothers that would come to our local, we used to hang out in a park. So they would come to give us dawah when we were like 60. We just on the road hustling or whatever. But their backgrounds was like, they were taxi drivers and factory workers, and we had no connection with them whatsoever. And we just want to run away, really. We didn't want to hear it. But obviously, with you now, you've been through these experiences, so you could probably relate to someone from your community much better than someone from that type of background, because you understand the evilness of that life, and you've been through it. You understand what I mean? And so, for all them negative people, so what do you really want? Do you want him to continue committing crime?
That's right.
Just be like that for the rest of your life, because that's the mistakes you made.
Because that's a question that you have to pose to them as well. Okay, so what you're doing is you're drawing and quartering this individual from making the changes or the requirements or the changes that he wants to make in his life. Then you know what's going to happen. You're going to end up a victim then. So sometimes the best opportunity, like there's something that I learned in Islam, and you see this is what I love about my faith. And it says this: if you have nothing good to say, remain silent.
Yeah.
What did our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He said, you will continue to be safe as long as you are silent. As soon as you talk, it will be written for you or against you. Ain't this a lesson for all human beings to understand and digest that what we say could impact? If a person is making changes, I pose this question to so many people as well. Show me the most innocent person. Show me a person that is flawless.
Flawless, yeah.
Because everybody, if you want to go technical as well, and you want to go scientific, and you want to look at like what crimes are, every single person has committed a criminal offense.
And you know, if you really look, for me, for someone who's kind of very inspirational for me as a person, someone we could relate to closer to our time was Malcolm X.
Of course, 100%.
And if you look at his background, he was a drug dealer. You know, he was a criminal. That's what we can't take that. We can't hide that. That's what he was.
100%.
And here we are now. His death's been how many decades? And he's still remembered and honoured. There's streets named after him. There's roads named after him in America. He's honoured to this day, you know, because Allah raised him, you know. It doesn't matter what he was before, because we have the concept of Tawbah. You understand what I mean? In our religion, Tawbah, for the people who don't understand, it means, you know, asking God to forgive you. If it's done sincerely, then that's between you and God. No one could hold nothing against you after that.
Aki, wallahi, you speak the truth, Aki, wallahi. You know why? Just as you was talking as well, I remember. Look at in Surah Yasin. I think it's Ayah 77. What does it say? Look what Allah is saying as well. He's posing this question. Do you know what you was created from? You was created from nutfa. What is that? Male and female discharge. But you stand as an open opponent to me. Who do we think we are? We are nothing. We're slaves of Allah. And you see, one thing that I love as well, and since growing up, and all the trials and tribulations that I went through, so whether that was hand-to-hand combat, whether that was weapon training, whatever they want to call it, one thing that I've actually learned as well was this. What did Allah say? And so when I got the life sentence, this is what He said. This: you will. It's so like, sometimes it actually makes me stop, because it's just so powerful. He says this, that the thing that you love the most, if you love a thing as much as me or as more than me, I'll make the thing that you love become the source of your destruction.
It's deep.
It always hits me because it's so true. How many, look, a guy, what does he do? He worships women. He does all these haram things, and then he ends up with what? Some type of disease. Love of money ends up ruining, destroying a person. You want to be the baddest guy. And we know the Arabic saying is as well that if you unsheath your sword of aggression, you shall die by it. This is what it says. And so I look at all these kind of aspects, and I say to myself, subhanallah, man, Allah's teaching us something.
Because when it really comes down to it, you're nothing.
Wallahi, we're not.
You're nothing.
We're not. I was just reading something what Steve Jobs actually said before he died in his deathbed.
He said that, I think, like, I can't remember what the words he said.
Yeah, so he said,
I know one thing. He didn't believe, but once he knew he was going to die, he believed, but he went, I think, turned into a Buddha or something. I don't know what it was, but
just remember that the ground that we walk upon, that's what he said, that the ground that you walk upon today will be the roof. This is what he said, that will be the roof for you of tomorrow. Will be your roof tomorrow. So the ground that you walk upon will tomorrow be your roof. And look at that, subhanallah. No, that means you're going to be in your grave.
Allah will humble you, man.
It's true, and it is.
Either you humble yourself or Allah will humble you.
But look how sick that we've become as well. It's almost demonic. Because look at the people that we respect. We even name ourselves in humiliating names. And we're thinking that it's actually acceptable. Yeah, I'm so forth. They call themselves devil, they call themselves killer man. Not understanding that you're going to be held accountable for these things. Do you understand what you're actually doing? You're bearing testament against yourself. on the day of Qiyamah, what? And you know, it's just like generosity goes a long way. And I'm happy, and I would always stand by my principles. And I'll tell you the reasons why as well. I don't, you know, like people ask me, oh, all the years, do you think that you could have just, I know that you've always helped individuals and so forth. And do you think now looking back that you maybe shouldn't have got involved? And I say, no, I am happy because you know why? On the day of Qiyamah, Allah knows.
That's the main thing.
That's the most important thing. It's like sometimes people are scared to speak the truth as well because they don't want to lose all this. So they don't want to lose popularity and so forth. I don't care because I've been at the very bottom of that hole. So I don't mind going back to the bottom of that hole. I don't care about public opinion. That's up to you. Alhamdulillah. We leave it to Allah. This is it.
You know, see this dunya, that like where we live, evil's glamorized.
Wallahi.
It's glamorized, like this is the cool thing. And I was a part of that. I believed, you know, I didn't believe it, but I was living it. You understand? Even though I knew it was wrong. Because it's so, there is an aspect of it is so appealing. They make it, but it comes down to the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu
Alaihi Wasallam.
When I mention hadith, I like to summarize them because I don't want to make a mistake in the hadith.
Of course, no,
and whatever.
We're correct. Definitely. None of us are scholars.
You know, it's glamorized, but I always remember the hadith of when Allah created the hellfire. He told the angel, go put nice things around it, you know, make it look, you know, beautify it. And I believe, forgive me if I'm wrong, the angel, when it was done, the angel said, I feel like everyone's going to basically fall into this. It looks so beautiful on the outside. So when you look at drill music, hip hop,
100%.
it's all beautified. You understand? Like when I was on the road, I thought I was the wickedest person. Like I had this thing, you know, when you go into a nightclub and you know there's fear, you know, I enjoyed that and whatever. But in the end, Allah humbled me.
100%.
I sat there one day and I said, I could beef with anyone. I could go to war, whatever, it doesn't matter. This tactic, you outmaneuver the enemy. You know what I'm talking about, you know? You outmaneuver him, you outsmart him, you know? And you get him. I was like, with Allah, you can't go against that entity. That is the might, you know? And if Allah gets his hands on you, it's done. You know, there was a hadith I read where the Prophet said to his daughter, Anha, he said that if Allah gets a hold of you, there's nothing I could do to help you.
100%. And
that's his daughter. So what about, you know, we're living in 100%. Evil. We're doing evil. So what about when Allah gets hold of us?
It's very emotional. And before we move forward as well, I just want to say something as well. All these individuals that are glorifying, I lived a very wretched life. And I tell you something now. Do you know how many nightmares I've had? I could not sleep. I used to have nightmares. I would wake up and I'll cry like a baby because I'm scared to going back to sleep because I know what was expected. I knew what kind of nightmares I was going to get again. So all this is not glamorous.
Look at Lewis. He was on the podcast and he was saying that even the PTSD he has, that he's always kind of looking over the shoulder. If he sees a van parked on the road, he'll walk on the other side just in case he thinks someone might drag him into the van.
100%. We all go through that.
Yeah, we all, because that's the life.
Especially when there's a motorbike or something and you just automatically
think straight. But I don't
100%.
let a motorbike ever come to the side of me.
100%.
You know, because it's just psychological.
My wife helped me. Before, I used to hate people walking behind me.
I didn't used to like people sitting behind me in the car. You know, it's just crazy things like that.
100%.
And that's like, it's only now you realize, isn't it? It's only now, you know, and whatever. Like I said, man, but the main thing is, you know, I always say, man, some people, alhamdulillah, they're blessed to leave that life alone. Allah gave them the opportunity. But some are not. I know people that died inside a nightclub. They died inside a nightclub. And I think to myself, what a way to go, man. 50 Cent in the background.
Yeah, because that's what they'll be raised upon.
Angel of Death taking him so well, 50 Cent's beating. Is your birthday? You know, it's mad. Getting back to you being outside, 18 years old.
Mm.
What was your plans? Like, what did you want to do? Did you have enough knowledge of Deen that say I want to be on Deen, or was
No.
it like I'm Muslim but I'm still going to try to get money?
Yeah. So there was a few combinations. There was a combination of things. It was very difficult because I think the turning point was I was focused on rugby. So in Feltham as well, they used to have a rugby team, Feltham Black Sheeps, and we used to go outside and actually play teams. We got into a lot of finals, and so there was, there was a lot of publicity based on us as a good rugby team. I was a winger at the time, so I was very quick. So there was other kind of good established clubs that actually were interested. Like, how long does he have left? We actually want him.
Okay. Was this like professional, semi-professional sort of?
Yeah. So I know that I was supposed to go to Staines, which at the time was a first division club. So, but because again, my behavior, there's certain lack of understanding. There's things that I did not understand, like cleaning boots. I'm not cleaning no one's boots. What do they think this is? Is this some type of racist thing? What do they think we're in the? You know, you just don't
YTS, that was normal.
yeah, but you don't understand these things.
YTS was a youth training scheme, so you have to do that.
But it makes sense now because it's teaching you discipline.
Discipline, yeah.
But when you don't know that and you've lived a particular lifestyle, you're just thinking,
clean nobody's boots.
And you have to remember this as well, that rugby was, let's be honest, it was for the kind of privileged few at that time, because you had a lot of like public school boys that were really playing rugby. So for you was kind of like the one in the middle. You know, you're noticeable because there's not so many people that look like you. So as soon as they, as soon as questions, people are asking you to do things, and in your mind you're posing questions like, "Nah, I'm not doing that." Then there was other aspects. So when I came out, one of the major problems that I was having, I didn't have a bank account. No bank at that time would allow me to have a bank account. So I was complaining to my father, and he was like, "Son, just have patience." And I'm thinking, I'm not really hearing that right now.
18 years old.
Do you understand? I need to they've actually blacklisted me.
Why though? What did they do that for?
Because here's what happened previously. They came back. So I think it was about 97. The police came back. They asked me to do something called, it was like, I think they called it something like TC or something. I forgot what it was.
ETS.
What it was is that you own up to a lot of the crimes, like the bank, so the steaming.
It's taken into consideration,
and they
basically. They just do that. Yeah.
This is, but our rule and our philosophy is that we don't do that. I don't care about anything else. I didn't do that.
They won't prosecute you for it. They just write it off like we've solved it.
That's correct. We solved it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I was like,
you don't trust them, innit?
Yeah, of course. I'm not. What are you doing that for? So I just refused, and it was so difficult. So then I'm going to be honest with you. And at that time as well, I forgot to tell you as well that I was also introduced to boxing. I was doing very, very well. Because a prison guard, he actually spotted the talent. So he said that, "I think you should do boxing." Then I joined Earlsfield Boxing Club, and I was doing very, very well. Lots of competitions, bouts, and things like that. And I was doing very well. But then obviously, the rules have changed outside as well. The whole dynamics have changed. Now, people are laughing. "Oh, you're coming to me with a fist fight." You don't do it with fist. You don't do it with knives.
Especially them days, no fighting.
Yeah, we're dealing with 357. Do you understand? So,
especially where you're from, yeah.
So 100%. So obviously, then I said, I'm going to level up as well. We're going to do this then. This is spaghetti western. Who draws first wins. So then from there, then those types of activities occurred until I committed my offence, which actually gave me my life sentence.
And what was that?
So what actually happened is that I got a phone call and saying that there was individuals alleged that was dealing with illegal activity. So we went there to obtain those illegal activity. During that time, I know that sometimes I feel embarrassed and sometimes we don't like to reveal our sins as well. But I had this crazy philosophy that if you show your gun, you use it. And I said to them that, look, I know that you have it. If you don't produce it, I'm going to. And so again, I think they underestimated us because we were a lot younger.
Yeah.
Firstly. Secondly, as well, I didn't think that I would find myself in the situation as well, because I thought that because we're all criminals,
It's not going to go to the police.
and it's kind of like a rule, but it never works that way. So basically, I ended up shooting them. Where
Both of them with a handgun.
Yeah, where that, you know, my heart goes out to their families and everything, and I'm happy, alhamdulillah, that they survived.
Alhamdulillah.
Where that they pulled through. Obviously, I exonerated everybody. I accepted full responsibility, and
you got caught straight away for it after.
No, I handed myself in about 3 days.
Oh, 3 days, yeah, more or less in the same week, yeah.
About 3 days, yeah.
Okay, so the people who got shot, they obviously wrote statements.
Eventually, yeah.
Okay, cool. You were on road for a very short period of time.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. You're 18, so you're 20 years old. You're still a youth offender technically as well.
Yeah, and that's whatever.
And you've been arrested in the police station. Obviously, you took responsibility straight away. So we don't even need to go into the court case because that's straightforward and whatever. So this is where life really kind of, the next phase kind of starts, you know. And this is like very important where your life goes from here. So we start with the sentence. Just break down what the sentence was. So explain to the people what IPP is, because a lot of people are still confused about IPP.
I'm before IPP. Yeah, I know. It's a shot to your face now. So allow me to break this down to you. I was given a discretionary life sentence. So what a discretionary was, at that time, before the IPP first came about, they done something in this country which they tried to have one up more than the Americans. Remember the Americans used to do 3 strikes and you're out.
That's right.
They done 2 strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
What they also posed as well with the discretionary life sentence as well is that a judge can automatically give you a life sentence depending on the severity of your particular crime, which mine. I understand that there was a lot of politics involved in my case as well, because obviously they accused me of a string of shootings, which they believe that I've got away with. So that was their only opportunity of actually, you're bang to rights, I'm admitting to it.
Yeah.
So they gave me a discretionary life sentence with a recommendation of 7 years. I'm not complaining because I committed my offence.
That's very harsh though.
This is correct.
For them, what is this, year 2000?
2000, yeah.
This is very harsh.
You have to also remember, in those times, not justifying anything, please, to the audience, but you have to also understand the magnitude of this. In my times, a gun-related murder was only 20 years.
If that was 18-year recs and stuff like that.
This is correct. I received a life recommendation of 7 years, which I ended up spending 22. I understand that my behaviour also contributed to that, and I'm not trying to justify anything. But I also like to, I realized the magnitude of how they play around with the law as well.
Yeah.
So that system came about in, if my memory serves me correctly, was in 97. This is when this discretionary 2 strike and you're out. Now, what they done, what they also done with the likes of myself as well. Because remember, they're saying that I've committed one other violent offence, which made me suitable for the life sentence. They went back to the time when I amputated the other young person's thumb. But I'm saying that that's way back. That's before I got, and I said, even if you want to do it by conviction, I got convicted in 95. That's before 97. And I was still a minor as well. You're talking about if you're an adult. So they shift the rules and everything in order just
to
use
whatever they could against you, basically.
101%. So that's what actually happened.
So you've got the 7-year life sentence. I thought it was an IPP.
No, see.
Okay, so you got the 7-year. So this was before the IPP.
That's correct, yeah.
So you've got a 7-year life sentence. What prison did you go to for youth offenders? I'm assuming first, right?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So they placed me in back again Feltham.
Back again there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's just briefly, because
How,
it's
let me, just for the viewers, the kids, how did you feel like when you got that life sentence? Like, when you sit, when you go down to the courts and you get back into the van, what were you going through?
To be fair though, I didn't understand the magnitude of it. For me, it was like they were conversing in a foreign language, because I just couldn't understand, what does that discretionary life mean? Oh, 7 years. I'm coming out at 27, and I'm definitely gonna punish people when I'm out. This is the way that I was actually thinking.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
This is the kind of warped mind that I actually had. Not understanding that, listen, you're not going nowhere. Allah's the best of planners. You are not going anywhere. But at that time, I didn't know.
You thought 7 years and I'm out.
Yeah. And then when they was telling me, no, you've got life, you've got 99 years. And I'm sitting there and I'm observing. I'm saying, 99 years. Okay. Oh, gloves are off.
I don't care now.
Of course not. Why should I care? You're saying that I've got what? I can be kept in prison for 99 years. So that's the way that I'm looking at it. I'm thinking that I'm not accepting anything from any of you. And I don't care whether you're prison guards, from whether you're prison inmates. I do not care.
You now kind of like, dark zone now, because it's unjust what they've done anyway. It's there, but you're 20, you're immature as well.
Of course,
that's a bad combination.
Of course. And then obviously I have the
violent tendencies
and I've got the boxing pedigree and so forth. So for me, it was all a playground.
So you've gone back into Feltham now. Life sentence. What are you feeling?
It was more like a carnival initially, because then I started to notice I had 9 cousins that also arrived after, yeah, and they all had co-defendants. So you can imagine everyone's meeting, everyone's just hearing the latest gossips, and then you had a large group of guys from North London coming in at those times as well.
Yes.
Collaborations. I'm knowing so many different people, whether they're from East London, whether they're from North London. So I felt comfortable.
Kind of like a chill out sort of thing.
Yeah, it was just. And then unfortunately, I know I've spoken about this already, so we'll just touch upon it quickly. Then a situation happened where there was a riot situation. I was then also accused of, I was also accused of instigating it, which then I actually got moved out.
Shipped out. Did they star you up?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Okay, where did they send you?
They sent me, at that time, it was Chelmsford.
Okay, sent you to Chelmsford.
The whole dynamics was different in our times as well, because you have to also understand that the dynamics in prison in those times, what I noticed was that they would have a person that would kind of like control the wing, or manage the wing.
Yeah.
So it would probably be, normally it would be a Caucasian gentleman. He would probably, very fit in the gym, he's got some type of muscle. And he would kind of keep for the officers, their law and order. And in return for that, they'll turn a blind eye to whatever he was actually engaging in.
That's right, yeah.
So when I went to Chelmsford, obviously I had a reputation. So straight away, this, an individual, this gentleman, he approached me, and again, he said something like, "You can't do this, boy," something like that. And like,
that was the wrong move.
You have to also understand as well that to even call, there's historical content in this boy as well when you call a black person a boy.
Yep, there is, yeah.
And especially, I'm not saying that he was racist, but you have to also understand, I do not know you from anywhere. I'm in Chelmsford, where that the majority of individuals as well were.
Of course, yeah. Because
when I first initially arrived in Chelmsford, they actually put me on the young offenders side, but because of the popularity, they moved me over to the adult side.
Started you up, yeah.
So then when he came and he said those words to me, then unfortunately we know what happened next.
Thumped him up.
It was unfortunate for him. Just keep it that way, because it's not about glorification and so forth. It's unfortunate for him.
Of course.
And
sometimes necessary.
Now they've lost control. Because remember, these were the people that were supposed to keep everybody in line. Now our generation came, and we're not abiding by those rules. We don't care. Who are you?
100%, yeah.
So now there's a problem within the system. There's a problem with these guys. They're a relic from the past. It's not going to work on us. And I don't need to be with large groups of people. I can totally handle it myself.
You're fighting your whole life.
That's right. It's correct.
At this time now, how is your deen? Like, are you praying? Like, where are you at with the religion?
So I'm still very primitive in my understanding of the deen. That doesn't come until when I'm about 24.
A few years later.
Years later.
Between like 20 and 24, you're just running buck wild through the system.
Of course. When I was on remand as well for that year, I moved. You could say a combination. I moved so many times. From, put it this way, all the remand prisons from, Brixton, Wandsworth, Pentonville, twice and 3 times, Belmarsh. Yeah.
So this was while you were on remand, you're moving around?
So many times, yeah. I would end up going to court. So, like when you have primarily, you have like certain hearings and so forth. And then they're saying that, that particular prison doesn't want you anymore.
How many prisons did you move on the 22 years?
Lost count.
Double figures, isn't it? Easily.
Yeah, easily. Lost count. Yes.
Can't even count it. So from Chelmsford, you're in there now. So you're fighting violence?
No. I left. So I had an incident with this individual, and then there was an incident with an officer, and conflict of interest. That soon, in my time, you put your hand on your officer, then you're gone. So then I moved to Belmarsh. By then, they were saying that I was potential Cat A, Pot A.
Wow. And you're barely 21.
Yeah. And then, obviously, had incidences there as well.
So you're literally fighting everywhere you go.
Yeah, and a lot of sorts of prison guards as well, and so forth. I just didn't really care. And then...
You were just fully rebelling, innit?
That's correct.
Because you thought, 99 years, let me make it worth it for the reason why I'm here.
I was just projecting my anger out. And that was it. And especially, as you know, let's be honest here, prisons are places full of damaged young and old men.
A lot of trauma.
So yeah, 100%.
So I can imagine what that few years was like. You're just venting, innit? You're just letting it out, and whatever anyone's crossing the line is catching it, basically.
101%.
And whatever. You said the religion came like about 3-4 years later. How did that kind of happen? What made you think, okay, let me, look into this a bit more?
Yeah. We call him Saf. So there was when I was in Wilmwood Scrubs, there was a governor. Her name was Miss Actor. She seemed to find me amusing. She because they knew that I weren't a troublesome person. It was just that if somebody troubled me,
they're getting sparked out.
Then I wouldn't say that, because I'm only human as well. I've also been,
But that's just how it is, man.
Yeah,
and it's really and truly, to be honest with you, if someone unjustly troubles you, you have the right to defend yourself. I'm not saying you were in the right all the time.
That's correct.
But some of the times you must have been in the right, because prison's a place. If you don't stand up for yourself, you will get violated.
100%. And I think, especially going into the adult system as well, they kind of this is why I never underestimate the young. Because they just saw me as a kid, so they thought that they could just, basically treat me
as a youngster, basically.
Yeah, and there was a lack of respect as well, not acknowledging that I'm still a man.
So when you were this actor, what happens from her?
Yeah, so so yeah, they say you come with a reputation, But there was a couple of good things in Scrubs, because there was an officer named Jarvis, and he was a martial arts expert. So he was doing a 50-man kumite, and he wanted somebody to spar and train with. And obviously they read my dossier. He knew that I boxed very well and so forth. So they actually allowed, and he used to make a joke, is this the only time you can legitimately punch an officer?
So make it spar with the officer.
Yeah. So make it
count.
worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah,
and we used to go, no, but he was tough. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Seriously?
He could, yeah.
What, head guard, everything though. Yeah?
No, there's no head guards.
Well,
He had the gloves,
gloves,
but
but
they had, yeah. So
in scrubs, yeah.
yeah, seriously, no word of a lie. I used to catch him a lot because remember, he's a man of
Was he a gym officer?
No, he was at the time he was a PO.
Oh, okay, personal officer, yeah.
He was a custodial manager. They call it CMs now. The thing that I used to catch him off guard because we was only boxing. He's a man. He was doing a 50-man kumite, so he uses his legs.
Yeah.
Kick. And there's a difference between when you're doing like Muay Thai compared to boxing as well. The stances are a bit different.
Yeah.
So if you're boxing, I'm gonna catch you all the time because you're coming too square. Because he's used to using his legs, but he's not gonna use his legs on me. Does that make sense?
So you're boxing. Yeah.
So yeah, so we were we used to train. He used to bring some other guys down there that used to say they had boxing backgrounds, and things were going well for a while. But before that, previously, I think the spark that started to make me think about Islam was there was one brother I used to always observe him. He was always quick tempered, but he was so calm, and he would always have a smile on his face. His name was Saf. Let's say, Pakistani brother. And the two things, I know I always say this and I'll always repeat this to the day I die. It was just like once I was with a group and they were debating something. And so they wanted to know his opinion. And so they called him and he came and he said, yeah, brother, he's just sitting there quietly, just observing, not even interrupting. They said, what's your opinion? And he said, brothers, we like to sit at the dinner tables and discuss the problems of the world, but can't solve the problems of our own homes. Please excuse me. And I was just like, I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, did I just hear that correctly? Did this brother just really? I was thinking like, wow. Like
what you said was true.
It was different though. Do you know, like compared to he
In
never
prison,
bossed,
yeah.
and he was tough as well. Do you know he comes from East London? It was boxing. You know, his family put him up to boxing, so he's a good boxer.
Okay.
He's established. I was close with like one of his, I think it's his cousin. I found out it's his cousin. He's one of his cousins, which was in for their case as well. And it was so amazing though with him because when I found out more, even about what he was in prison for, and it was nothing to do with him, and he stood steadfast in the sense of he didn't just push his cousin under the bus. He just thought, you know what? At the end of the day, sometimes these things happen in life. And he accepted it where most people would crying out the houses, always be talking about it. He was never bitter.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
It was just amazing, like for an innocent person to actually, and everybody knew that. It was nothing to do with him. It's just like you meeting a family member.
Yeah.
And then you realize that, oh, wait there. Oh, he's just done that. And the weird situation is that that particular family member went home. He didn't.
Wow. But he dealt with it with patience.
Wallahi. And there was one more, like I always remembered. Was at the dinner queue. And you know that this could be a magnet to getting into fights. Person pushed in. Just about to start.
A bad thing to do.
And the brother just held me like this and said, brother, all it means is that he's just more hungry than us. Hear me. He just
simple words.
I just looked at that and I just thought, subhanallah, so his beard. And then in those times as well, if the imam couldn't turn up, they would nominate somebody to take the khutbah, and it was him. And he gave a talk where that even the guys that you could say that are kind of like streets, they were crying. He touched my heart. He's the only guy that I felt jealous if somebody else was talking to him and I wanted to talk to him. It's like, I want to talk to you. I want your attention. Everybody wanted it. I've never seen nothing like it, even officers. Like, I've never seen nothing like that.
Where was he from?
He's from East London. I say East London stuff, yeah.
MashaAllah. And he's out now, yeah?
Yeah.
So that kind of like triggered your interest?
101%. He would speak to me in such a soft way. And I know I was a difficult person at that time as well. So he would say to me like, you know, brother, you know, please, look, he had a lot of patience. And remember, he's a tough guy, so he's not scared. He can do this toe to toe with me. And I don't know who would win out of me and him. So it's not like if he was intimidated. But he just had that
love,
you know, and the love for the deen. And when I used to, you know, go to his cell, I see him sitting down and he's just reading Quran, and he was just so soft. It's just unbelievable.
So that having that impact, what actions did you put into play from that?
The first thing that I wanted to do was start learning my prayers.
Yeah.
So he started to help me. He started to help me with my salah. We know as Muslims as well, this is our foundation. That's the first thing that's going to be. That's the first thing that we're going to be questioned on. Is upon our salah. So and then from there, but the problem that was existing at that time as well was still my temper. So then I had a situation with a gym officer, and
went to altercation. And what? Segregation? Ship out?
Yeah, it was unfortunate for him. But
Okay. Did they retaliate?
Oh yeah. So what actually happened was, as well, after that particular incident, the governor still believed in me. So what she actually done was she organized that from the seg that I can go to education department, which I was helped by a lady. She was the head of the education department at the time. Her name was Angela, and Ian Mohammed. These were teachers.
Yeah.
And what they would do quite a few things with me. So they would go through the dictionary with me. They would go through presentations and things such as that, because they said that, look, you're very intelligent, but you're speaking in so many different kind of slangs. You need to
brush it up, sort of thing.
Yeah. They said that it's all good when you're conversing with people, you know, of, you know, your type of ideology and so forth. But when you're dealing with professional people as well, that you need to also understand the language that they're talking as well. So they also helped me with that. But then unfortunately, an incident happened in the visits. And then I was...
Another fight, basically.
Yeah. So they were upset. Basically, a particular officer was upset that I was still there after what happened to the gym officer.
Yeah.
So at the time when I had the visitor, at that time, it was an hour visit. They came after 30 minutes telling me that my visit's been terminated. And then an argument ensued. I waited until I couldn't see my visitor no more. I thought they were gone. And then I lashed out. Then unfortunately.
That's it. And they took you to the block?
Oh yeah.
Did they assault you, or just wrapping up sort of thing?
No. What they done was, eventually, there was a lot of them. They dragged me out of the visit. Once I was out of the visit, to be fair though, the kind of experiences that I've had with them, was quite light compared to what will be subjected to later on in years.
Okay.
But yeah, they punched me, they kicked me in my ribs.
And they're not meant to do that under any circumstances.
No, of course not. Definitely not.
Because they're trained to use certain restriction techniques that are legal.
But I understood as well that when you're engaging in that type of hand-to-hand combat as well, I was prepared for
whatever comes back.
Whatever, even though we know it's not professional. Even on a professional perspective, you know that what you're actually doing is wrong. But I understood that I am engaging in that type of warfare, so I accept there's going to be some type of repercussions. Does that make sense?
100%.
Even though.
I respect that, because you know what you're getting yourself into, basically.
101%.
Whatever. So where did they ship you from there?
So from Scrubs, I went to Swellside.
So, alhamdulillah, we've got a strong Muslim community in Swellside, from what I remember.
Yeah, but again, it was like, until we get to the bits of the dispersal, to be fair, I was just being bounced around.
Okay. So but as you're going on, you're trying to learn more about your deen. So on one hand, you're trying to control the anger problems.
That's correct.
Trying to pray, read the Quran, trying to learn that because you didn't know or whatever.
100%.
And but the same things kept happening, the fighting and stuff like that.
101%. The fighting, then it comes down to allegations as well, that you're supposed to be doing something that you're not even doing, but then you're thinking, I don't really care anyway. You can say what you want to say. If you want me to be the boogeyman, I'll be that boogeyman. So it was just kind of that kind of mentality and that kind of mindset.
You don't really care, whatever happens, isn't it? Sort of
101%.
thing.
Yeah.
How did you end up in dispersals?
So eventually, obviously, the system is now fed up. So I think I went to dispersal the first time in 2005.
Okay, so 5 years in.
So 2005, I've gone into dispersal. And yeah, I observed that there was a lot of issues within the high security estate.
Sorry, what dispersal were you in?
I was in Whitemore.
Whitemore, okay. What do you mean by issues?
So what I meant by issues were, they were, I felt that the Muslims were at that time were at their weakest.
Yeah.
It weren't to do with deen, it was more gang affiliations. So where you're from and who you're affiliated with, rather than this is my brother of deen. So it was understanding the whole kind of dynamics, and it was a jungle in there. I've seen the rise and fall of so many people. And so one of the so what happened was, crazy enough, I was in Dovegate, there was an allegation that led me to Whitemore, because it wasn't even an allegation. I engaged in a physical altercation with, he was it's like an operations manager, and this was to do with Muslim service.
Okay.
So I basically engaged with this with this officer. They were so upset because he got injured quite bad.
What was the issue? Like, why did you engage with him?
So at the time I was in a therapeutic community, and they would hold the Jummah service within a room. He said that we couldn't use the room because they were having a meeting. I said, but that's our right though, to have religious service. So are you going to give us an alternative? He said, no, just get with the program or something like this.
And they're not meant to do that?
No. So I said, are you really saying that? And then he then said to me, so what are you going to do about it?
And that's it?
Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll show you what I'm going to do. And then
So look at that. On one hand, they say that's our right. You could have Friday prayers, and they take it away just because he felt like it.
That's correct.
And obviously now, I'm not saying what you did was right, but what's going to happen is going to happen.
So then after that, I'm thankful to the brothers as well at the time, because they actually held me back after, because obviously they were unaware of what was going on. So I was such in a rage, and I was doing what I was doing, and the rest of his colleagues weren't aware of what was going on. So the brothers can actually see that, wait there, you're going to pick up another
charge.
No, more than that. So they held me and said, no, Yusuf. So at the time I couldn't understand it.
But now
I do now. Yeah, and I thank them for that. So what happened eventually, when they did find him, they found him because he was out. He was unconscious. He was everything. So they were. So they took me to the SEG. And this is the first time that I kind of really identified the levels of corruption. Yes, I know I done what I done. But they had so the governor called me into the room. There was a governor. There was an IMB, independent monitoring board member there. Remember, this is supposed to be a civilian. There was various different other individuals there. Next thing I know, I'm speaking to the governor like I'm conversing with you now. The door flungs wide open.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm being hit left, right, and center. They've actually done it right in front of the governor, right in front of the IMB. I can understand it even with the governor, but the IMB
Who's done it?
The officers. They actually start laying into me.
They rushed you in front of the governor?
That's correct. They were so upset. So they've continuously, hitting me, punching me. Then they handcuffed me, dragged me, cut my clothes. You know, the same.
And there was no kind of, like, what's the right word to use? There was no comeback for them from the system. Like what they done, they didn't get questioned by the governor, they didn't get fired, suspended, nothing.
No, they shipped me out very, very quickly after, because, you know, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un for the brother Sharom.
Okay, yes.
But at the time as well that Sharom and the brothers heard about this, and so what they all done was they gathered outside the seg, and so they got scared because they heard that I was being beaten up in the seg.
Okay, because they thought they might try to kill you in there.
Yeah. So they shipped me out, and then that's when I went to Whitemore. That was my first experience in Whitemore.
Okay. So that was quite deep. So nothing came back off the officers rushing you?
No, so what actually happened was, when I was in Whitemore, they called me to the adjudication area and the police were there. So they were saying that they needed to take statements because they were interviewing me over the assault on the prison guard.
Yeah.
So he's looking to go criminal case, yeah. Criminal case against me. But then they had to drop it because I was a state.
Okay.
So they knew that.
Well, you were bruised up and everything.
Yeah, my face was busted.
Wow, but they were not concerned about prosecuting the prison officers though.
No, but we're not gonna.
Yeah, obviously you're not gonna do that. But what I'm saying is, no one's got suspended, and it goes to show you the double standards.
101%. And so this is why they couldn't pursue it, even though they wanted to. But they lost control. They lost control in such a degree. And the thing was as well, they used to do this kind of method as well, which I know that they still sometimes do this. So when they're restraining you, now obviously you can sometimes panic, because when you have like arms around your neck, especially that I do jiu-jitsu, so I understand the importance of this, you protect your neck and so forth. They're choking you. Now, they're trying to give you commands, but sometimes you can't because you have two people holding your arm here extended, you're spread eagled. It's absolutely crazy.
Nothing, yeah.
So what they do sometimes when they feel that you're not corresponding with them, they will sometimes, if you have a top or so forth, they'll put the top and wrap it over your head.
That's right, yeah.
So now you're not even breathing. So this is also a form of torture. And a lot of people are unaware of this, and you can actually die like this. And so these were the things that they were basically doing as well, whilst, you know, I would say probably some of the horrific events is when you're continuously being punched in your ribs and things such as that. That's, you know, I would actually say that.
So that probably made you kind of even more like angry at the system, innit?
No, 101%. I just thought, okay, the gloves are off. And that's how I lived there. I said, I'm not going to complain, but if I see you again, then we know what we're going to engage in.
Yeah. So when you were in Whitemore, how did you find the dispersal system different to, you know, the other BCATs and stuff like that?
I found the dispersal system to be very ruthless, because you're having guys that, let's be honest, technically, they are not going to be released. So this is all they have for the rest of their lives. So they don't mind slitting your throat. They don't mind pouring hot oil over you. They don't mind doing these demonic, satanic things, because it's not going to happen. It's a day trip for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Probably some sort of entertainment. You know?
So that's what I found. I found that at the time as well that the Ummah was kind of disjointed as well. People at a crossroad, let's say.
Yeah.
And one thing that we're taught in Islam as well, that you can't serve two masters. It's one or the other.
One or the other, yeah. Because they had one foot on the road and one foot.
That's right.
In the deen, yeah.
Some people dance on the line. It's not. Choose one or the other. Are you Muslim, or are you a gangster? This is a decision that you're going to have to make.
That's true, yeah.
So,
did you at that point make that decision? I want to be like on my deen now. That's it.
I made that decision before I went to dispersal.
Oh, before you went to dispersal?
Yeah. Okay. Because there was a strong community within the Dovegate.
Okay.
Within Dovegate.
The private prison, right?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
So even that, and even what you said in Swellside as well. So already the foundations was already laid. But I just felt that there were some things that were so untasteful for me. It's
Yeah.
unsavory. Like the levels of bullying that I actually saw.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking to myself that, you know, this is totally unacceptable. But I think before one started to, you know what we say, charity starts at home. So
Yeah.
before one started to really look deeply into those things, I had to change the things within myself first. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
That's right. Yeah.
So then, funny enough, because they dropped the charges now, there's no reason for me to be in high security, because the whole idea of me being in high security, and I'm not an ACAT, so at that time, so I had a good legal team. So she was saying that, so what's he there for then? So then they sent me to Gartree.
Okay.
When I went to Gartree at the time, the Muslims were in a very poor state. And I was hearing stories, and it was true as well, that a person would, you know, there were certain instances that were happening from outside, and it was reflecting back on the Muslims in prison. So, for example, one of those guys, what I told you already from before and earlier on in our conversation, that he would go into a cell, there would be 3 Muslims sitting down, and he would slap them, saying, "What's Allah going to do?" And things such as this. So when we were hearing all these kind of horror stories,
It's another inmate. Yeah.
yeah, another inmate, when we're hearing all these kind of horror stories, and I'm saying, who? So, you know, the first thing that I said was that I want to know who this individual is, so I can engage in whatever we need to engage with.
And him doing that, obviously racist bullying or whatever, you know, being a bigot, the prison officer probably knew what he was doing, right?
Of course, because I assumed that he was in charge. So, you know, I don't like to speculate.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But
So for me,
it was a norm, though.
It's not like for me. It's not for me looking for others to respond to a situation.
Yeah.
I just took it on board myself.
And
So I went to see this individual, and then took it from there.
and it turned out good for him.
To be fair though, and this is why that Islam talks about compassion as well. When you know that somebody is actually petrified, somebody is so scared, then there is no need for you to go further.
Have mercy on them.
You have to. Allah is merciful to those that show mercy. And we need to understand this to some of the younger brothers as well. Because one thing that our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said as well, he said, "My ummah will be destroyed by foolish young men." So we need to be very careful here. So when I saw that he was all kind of very petrified, he was actually shaken. I actually felt sorry for him.
So you gave him a pass.
So yeah, I did. But I said, under no uncertain terms that you're going to go around intimidated. I first posed the question, what did they do to you?
To be just.
But he even tried to deny it.
They didn't do that to him.
So after that, I just thought, you know what? I thought I was doing the
right thing.
Yeah, and doing your civil duty as well. They're talking about, like, you know, if there's a problem as well, try to resolve it and so forth. And I felt that I resolved it.
Yeah.
Next thing, it was a very embarrassing moment for me. Next thing, I'm on the toilet. So taking a comfort break. And my door bursts open and there's the mufti. So what the muftis are as well is officers that put on the PPE. So that's the protective gear. So they have the helmets, the shields and so forth. And they moved me down to SEG saying that I was bullying. I was there less than 6 months.
Look at that. So the guy that was actually bullying, he had no consequences. But you're the guy that actually helped and they took you down the segregation.
And it was sad. By then they were basically saying that I was radical. Because it first started with these kind of accusations that I was radical. It started when I was in Dovegate. And there's a lesson to learn in this. There was this teacher, and for some reason, I don't know what it was, he just disliked me. I wrote a poem. There was nothing radical. All I said was like, look, I said this: as I burn some incense and meditate the mind, I elevate myself to a higher spiritual state of consciousness, to break bread with the sons of man as I wander the realms of the cosmos, as I look through the telescope of life with my third eye, viewing a valley full of dry bones and the motivated soldiers. How is that radicalization?
That's radicalization.
There were some guys in uniform that came in, some guys in suits that came in and took the computer, everything that I was working upon. So that's the first time that I got flagged up. Now I remember when I was.
So that's funny because that's nothing to do with radicalization. Nothing.
It was confusing. They were all deciphering everything that was like.
There's a secret code in there.
They asked me to write a poem. It's not even like if I took it upon myself. They said today's activities are you're going to write a poem. Everybody liked what I wrote. It went further. And all of a sudden is that they're basically saying that this is radicalization. So let's fast forward it. So now I'm in Gartree. I'm in the seg. There was one officer in particular. And he was just like, yeah, gotta destroy your life.
What?
This is what he's saying. He's saying, yeah, this is what he said. And I apologize to the viewers that may be offended by what I'm going to say next, but he says, what's your Allah Akbar's going to do now? That's how he was talking. He couldn't even pronounce it properly. Allah Akbar. Like, like taking a mick. And I looked at him and I said, I know at the time I was emotional, so you have to also understand. I said that I'm going to dedicate my life in getting you. But as what we say is that Allah is the best of planners. And I'm not, what happens next? I'm not trying to glorify anything. But one thing that I've learned in life as well, everyone has a price to pay. I've had to succumb. I've had to pay my price. So the first one, and this is why that it's important for Muslims as well, that sometimes when you're going through these kind of difficulties, these kind of trials and tribulations as well, is that you remain firm and you just continue to put trust in your Lord. Because when I put trust in my Lord as well, the first one that made the accusation, a teacher, he hanged himself.
Suicide for outside issues, like
outside
in
issues.
His personal life.
Yeah,
to make that
personal,
clear.
In his personal life, he actually killed himself. But my heart goes out to his family and everybody else. So you see that officer said that I'm going to ruin your life. He also committed suicide as well.
Committed suicide.
So that's 2. Then later on, further into my case as well, when they've lied against me on my court case, and especially the lady that testified and lying and saying that I was going to kill her colleague, she also died as well.
For a prison officer to say to you, I'm going to destroy your life, and we see how Allah helps you, basically. That's what he's trying to say. Like, that just shows how far they will go in breaking the rules. Because that's something that is breaking kind of every rule that they stand on. Do you understand what I mean? You're breaking, it's not your job to ruin someone's life, number one. 100%. And number 2, to insult someone's religion. You're meant to be like the fair justice in the institution.
100%.
And you're mocking a person's Lord, basically.
101%.
And whatever. And this is what the people, and this is what a lot of the Muslims on the outside don't know what happens inside there.
Of course.
Because they're locked behind, there's no one overlooking, and there's a lot happening inside to a lot of the brothers.
But brothers don't even know, because I was explaining this to someone else as well. Did you know that there was about 8 or 7 officers that got convicted?
No, yeah, tell us about this.
Basically in Nottingham, I think it's a prison in Nottingham.
Yeah.
They had a chart and they were given points. So it was like 10 points for beating up a Muslim, 9 points for the N-word, for beating up a N.
Yeah.
They had something like 8 points for beating up a P. And they had all the kind of list of points, and they were foolishly enough to leave it wherever they were leaving it. And there was a whistleblower that exposed them, and they was all incarcerated. But where was the media backlash? Where was the public outcry? All this was swept underneath.
Could you imagine if a Muslim had a list? Forget a prison officer Muslim. This is a regular Muslim walking down the road. He had a list. If you beat up a white guy, get 5 points. That would be on the headlines of every single newspaper in the country.
look, first and foremost is, I'm going to be honest with you as well. I've had enough of like, there is people as well that sometimes that do look at all the kind of like the negative aspects. Like we're good at looking at, we're good at sometimes articulating the problems, but not the solutions. What I'm actually saying is, this is not my opportunity to try to attack the prison system. What I'm actually saying is though, I honestly believe that I have a solution to their problem.
Well, what's that?
And there needs to be more people such us as ourselves that can actually help assist.
Yeah.
And what that is as well is that we need to create a safe environment for both. And that is, individuals need to be held accountable. There's too many people in a professional capacity as well that feel that it's okay for them to write anything down and not be held accountable for it. And put their hands up and say, oh, well, I'm just doing my job. That's not enough, because you're ruining people's lives. You're writing things, because how the system works is, when they put out an SIR on you, security incident report on you, this is how they certificate things. If it comes from an officer, it's authentic.
That's it. There's no investigation needed.
So it doesn't even matter. And the strangest thing about it as well, that what you'll find with a lot of the SIRs as well, that sometimes that are submitted against certain brothers, especially within the dispersal system as well, it's the same officers that are doing it. So you know now that it's actually personal. Does that make sense?
That's deep, man. What they're doing.
So
You can
these
write
are
anything.
Of course they can. And they're saying that it's authentic because it's coming from a reliable source. So that's how they see it, as a reliable source. But then they're not telling you that the 101 SIRs that they're getting is from the same people, which should raise doubts.
That's a
But
judge,
it's
jury, executioner.
101%. And it's ruining people's lives, because further when we talk more about what's actually happening, you're going to see what happened in my case and what happened to so many different brothers and what was going on. So let's go for the, okay, so I went back to dispersal. Let's go to 2007, when the real problems, and so I can articulate this, because this is very important. I want to talk about the people that are really suffering. I left my brothers, I love them. And I'm dedicated to helping anybody that is being oppressed. Not just Muslims, anyone that don't have a voice, I am going to be your voice. I promise you that. Wallahi, I promise. You hear my voice, I promise you. So what happened in 97? So, sorry, 2007. So there was this is when there was always little skirmishes. So, you know, there was instances that was happening outside, and it was reflecting back in the prison between Muslims and non-Muslims and such as that. Fair enough. But the major issue was that really sparked things. There were two individuals. There were two non-Muslims. This is how it all started. Two non-Muslims.
Yeah.
There was two non-Muslims. There was one from the north of the country. He was supposed to be quite an impressive boxer. He didn't like this other gentleman. They then decided to do the gentleman agreement. They decided that they wanted to go into the Colosseum and engage in combat. Fair enough. That's how they want to resolve their situation. Now, one of the gentlemen, he was close to an individual that happens to be a Muslim. So we know as Muslims as well that we don't betray people. We don't, irrespectively, we have respect for,
break your word
for individuals. So he said to the brother, look, I'm going to, engage with this person. Can you just wait outside? And so forth.
Watch my back, basically.
So his friends were outside. The brother was there. So they were fighting. They thought it was going to be an easy night for this individual because he's a great boxer. He's a lot bigger. It's like David and Goliath. But it didn't work out how he thought it was going to work out. It seemed like he was struggling to keep him under. And you remember, they're both non-Muslims.
Okay.
So it's nothing, if you want to go technically, it's nothing to do with us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's two non-Muslims, if they want to pull it that way. But we're humanitarians, egalitarians. So anyway, they are engaging. So his friend then turns around and says that, look, to the brother, he says, look, this guy's a non-Muslim. We want to go in there and we want to And the brother saying, no, you're not doing that. So this is where it starts.
They want to rush him, basically. Now.
Yeah. So he's saying that no. So they got into an altercation where then the brother lashed out. Now they're engaging in hand-to-hand combat. So what they done was, the following day, they've sent what you call kites, notes, to their friends on different wings and spurs.
What prison is this in? Sorry.
This is Whitemore.
Whitemore, you go.
Basically telling them to go to the gym because the brother's going to be there, innit? So they thought that they were going to
rush him, basically.
Yeah. So there's about 9 of them. They went to the gym, and unfortunate for them, that was a day where all the Muslims were in the gym doing their workout. So unfortunate for them, they got injured very badly.
But they went there for smoke, innit?
So what then happened was, the officers decided to protect these individuals. They sent them to the seg. They gave them a television and everything else as well. Made sure that their life was comfortable in the seg. Then they shipped them all out together, which is ever unheard of. All 9 to
same prison
to Franklin. They went to Franklin, and when they went to Franklin, they span a narrative saying that the Muslims are bullying the white kids and so forth. Obviously, if they're hearing that, I can understand somebody from an ignorant position thinking, so what is that? What's going on? So then what they then done in response to that, they then beat up the Muslims that were there. They did. We need to speak the truth here. So we speak the truth even if it's against ourselves. The Muslims at that time got unstuck. They came unstuck. They got beaten up.
Of course, outnumbered.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that happened. News got back throughout the dispersal system what happened. A lot of brothers started to put in applications to go to Franklin. Now the brothers want to go to Franklin. What then happened is there's 4 brothers. And you know what? Alhamdulillah. I'm not going to mention them by names, but everybody knows who these 4 brothers are. They were in Franklin. They took on a whole wing. Now you tell me about how unjust this is. How can 4 brothers be restrained on the floor, being restrained, when they're being attacked by nearly a whole wing, and they were being kicked and stamped on their heads whilst they're being held on the floor by the officers?
Look at that.
This is what was actually happening.
Officers are not a mutual party in this.
One brother was knocked out unconscious because the amount of kicks that he was getting. So people just get like running up and kicking them in their heads and so forth. So obviously, then what do you think is going to happen? Then all gloves are off.
Exactly.
So this is what basically happened. Now you have to also understand, if you go back to the history of dispersal, it was a very uncivilized place. There was guys, I remember there was guys before, and people have to talk the truth, that would be in strip search. Like if they were coming through reception. I couldn't believe it. You're having another man strip search you, telling you to squat and so forth. This is the kind of depravity used to happen before Islam, before Muslims.
Okay.
Now people are talking about, like, look, I understand that not everybody's experiences are the same. So I can only talk from what I've seen. I know that there's some people that have abused the faith and have done things for their own reasoning. We know this. There's good and bad in everybody though. But we have to also understand this. They're saying about, oh yeah, but the Muslims didn't allow you to listen to music. That's a lie. In my times, because what it was as well, there was always a system in place, even in dispersal. I got told this when I first came. Like, people were just telling me like what the rule of thumb is.
Yeah,
because I didn't know, for the whole week.
People live there.
They said after like 10 o'clock, if you turn down your music and things such as that, turn down the volume of your television and things like that, because people go sleep. So there was always that type of rules and policy. They're trying to make out like all of a sudden that Islam just came, the Muslims came, and this was it. No. But what we done was, we became the voice for the voiceless. So then what happened was, after that, it then became back and forth. The thing that I found very strange about when all this was actually happening was that, if you know about the whole high security estate as well, you can't be having knives this big and be walking through detectors and not being detected. So that means that authorities are allowing you to walk through with that.
Especially in high security.
You can't. It's impossible. It's gonna go off. So that means that you've allowed it. So he's now carrying it, and then he pokes a Muslim. But what they didn't anticipate was that the Muslims weren't running away from danger. They were running forward to danger. I've never seen nothing like it in my life. And we're not trying to glorify violence here, but I'm saying that when you put your trust in Allah and you love humanity, let's say humanity, then you're prepared to make those sacrifices, even if there's extra years on your sentence, because you hate tyranny,
Oppression.
of course. And I've never seen nothing like it. So what I would actually see as well, I've witnessed this with my own eyes. So a person gets, a Muslim gets stabbed, and then you're having brothers piling over each other just to get to that person, putting their own life in danger
Defend him.
to defend that person.
Just for the viewers to understand, 9 prisoners getting shipped out to another high security prison together is unheard of. I'm not even sure they're allowed to do that. That's just ridiculous, probably broke every protocol in the book, to do what they done there. But like I said, that was deliberate to do that. They would never transfer 9 Muslims from one prison to another in a C category prison.
No, 100%.
Let alone high security. Can I ask you a question? Obviously, and you're the perfect person to answer this. The prison institution. I'm not saying every officer is a bigot. I'm not saying that. There's good people and bad people everywhere you go.
100%.
Do you think there's an element within that prison system, from the aspect of prison officers, that they discriminate and they persecute anyone who's an Orthodox Muslim? Meaning somebody who prays
Of
5
course.
times a day. Like, what I'm saying is, you could be the most quietest Muslim,
100%.
but you pray 5 times a day. You're
Because
Muslim outwardly and inwardly.
you need to also understand, and this is why I say it's going to be a very difficult task as well. And I'll tell you why it's going to be very difficult. Because you have to understand where a lot of these prisons are geographically. Look, I've spoken to an officer, and you know what she said to me? She said that it's London like The Wire.
The TV program.
Yeah. They've never engaged in
They've never
anybody else
engaged.
but themselves. So when they're hearing, you have to also understand what is ignorance, a lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge, yeah.
So when they're hearing all these kind of stories as well, automatically, so who are there to police them?
Nobody.
And I've always said this as well, that the IMB, they've been compromised. Because look, even diplomats understand that after a period of years as well, they actually moved them on.
What's the IMBs? Tell the people.
Independent monitoring board. So they're supposed to be separate from the prison service, and they're supposed to, I'm not saying that all of them are bad, but what tends to happen is as well that when you're in an establishment for a period of time, you build that camaraderie. That's just natural.
But they're not really, the board is not really on the ground though. They kind of come afterwards and ask a few questions. What?
That's correct. And they're supposed to be.
Yeah, there's no one actually on the ground there, like, as it happens. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, and I'm going to continue. So what happened was so let's talk about my situation, and then I can further elaborate on some of the brothers.
Yeah.
So in 2010, an incident happened on the wing between a brother and this particular officer, which is now, just for viewers, he's actually sacked from the prison service.
Fired.
He got fired. He's actually suing the prison service. He got sacked, and 2 of his other companions as well got fired as well. So I'm not just trying to create a problem here.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to articulate what actually happened. So I don't know what happened. I came after. So an incident happened in the office. It spilled out onto the landing. Now for me, I thought it was my civil duty as well to protest, because I felt it was going to be another George Floyd moment, where that they had the brother under control, but they were still applying pressure onto his neck and everything. Even in court, the officer said that yes, we did have his neck tight. He couldn't breathe. You can hear the wheezing.
Yeah.
So obviously, I protested loudly. They then accused me of injuring a few officers. A few officers got injured, and I had to go to court for that. So that was one.
Outside charge.
Outside charges now. He's injured. They're injured as few. The strangest thing was, I knew they weren't finished with me, because I went to the segregation unit, and already it's a conflict of interest now. Now that it's police are involved and so forth, they tend to ship you out.
Are you in the same jail?
After about 2 weeks, they've taken me out of the seg. Very, very strange. Do you know what the brother said to me? Be careful, they're going to set you up.
100%.
Like, it's very strange. Everybody knew it was strange. Even I was thinking, nah, maybe they just don't like. Even I was trying to.
You're thinking they can't be that corrupt.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself like, nah, you know what? Sometimes things happen and so forth, and yeah, they know that I didn't do nothing and so forth. So naivety. So now, after Muslim service, a gentleman's throat get cut. His throat got cut. They then automatically accuse me. So what actually happens is they, bring security, the dogs, all the guards and everything, and now they want to come for me. All the brothers block their way, saying, "Why are you going for Yusuf for? What has he done?" I didn't want to get any more brothers in trouble, so I just thought, you know what? Let me just go with them. This can easily be resolved. The imam's right there. He saw me. I'm right next to the imam, so forth. They take me to the seg. Little do I know, one by one, all these doors are being opened and closed. All the brothers, the whole seg has been filled up with brothers, Muslims. From one instance, so even if you're saying that I am the perpetrator, what's it got to do with everyone else then? If you're saying that I am the perpetrator, you've got the right person, why are so many Muslims being taken to the seg? They filled it up so much, there was no more space. They then started to use the cells in the healthcare.
Yeah, okay.
And started to fill them up. Then all the vans started to come and they started to put people on the vans and started to move them. So I'm there in the seg. I'm hearing rumors, this person's passed away. They've come back and they've basically informed me as well that, yeah, we got some news for you. You've been promoted. I'm thinking, promoted how? What are you talking about?
Do you know?
Oh, CSC. But remember, this is all alien to me. I don't know what CSC is. I've never heard of it in my life. Close Supervision Center. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Well, you're going to go for further assessment. We're assessing you now. We're doing reports about you. Next thing, I'm looking at the door and I'm thinking, I'm an ACAT. How have you got the Home Office so quickly to write me up as an ACAT? So already they was on the phone with the Home Office. The Home Office have actually made me an ACAT, saying that I should have never been a BCAT in the first place. And then they tried to use, remember when he was potential part Cat A? Why weren't he a Cat A in the first place? So now I'm an ACAT. Now I'm waiting for to be assessed. Obviously, they assessed me as suitable because they've used all the instances throughout my prison sentence, all the violence, and saying that, look, this man is. But now they've put a different twist to it as well. They're saying that I'm also manipulative. They're using all different types of words like glib. Words come easily, but you're insincere, psychopathic tendencies. They're saying all these, types of isms and
anything
schisms
to make it stick, basically.
Yeah, 100%. So I was happy. Eventually, some of the brothers got released back onto the wings. Some got shipped out. Now they, after 7.5 months, they've moved me. After 7.5 months
From
of
the
being in the
SEG?
SEG, from the SEG to Woodhill unit.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing that I observed when I went onto the unit as well was just, it felt like a cemetery. So quiet. And I'll be honest with you, in my head, I was thinking, seriously, am I really going to have to do this? Like, it was this.
But why was it so quiet?
I don't know. It's this. I do know now, and I will explain it to you later on in our conversation. But you have to understand the kind of mental torment that individuals are going through,
Yeah.
especially when you're going through solitary confinement, when you have nothing. Now, what they actually done with me, I was on a full PPE. So again, protective gear, 7-man unlock. So 7 officers. I can't move anywhere without 7 officers and a dog handler.
Dog's always there.
Double ratchet. So double handcuffed and then handcuffed onto an officer. The ruling that they had with me as well was that I can't have a toothbrush. I have to apply for it. So they'll give it to me in the morning.
Toothbrush?
Yeah. I can't have my trainers. I can't have my trainers in there, my footwear in there. I can't have anything. I have to start from scratch. So I had nothing at all. It was just bare. So they closed the door and I just sat there. I just looked and I just thought, oh, I haven't got nothing to read. Just nothing at all.
Do you think there's a deliberate attempt to mentally torment prisoners, especially Orthodox Muslim prisoners?
I don't even need to think about that. He actually expressed his intentions. One of the officers actually said to me as well that we give it to you, Patterson, but we will break you. And that's what he actually said to me. He looked in my face and he said, I will break you. So I spoke to another professional about this, and he says that, in military prisons that they do these types of tactics, like stress positions and other things. I said, when I explained to him about the clothing, so they gave me a tracksuit, but it was 2 sizes smaller. So it makes you self-conscious.
Of course. What?
So these were the things that they were doing. Sometimes I would go from the exercise, come back, and there'll be dirt on my bed, dirt on the floor.
Psychological torture.
101%.
Do you think these are like some of the tactics that they've kind of like third hand learnt from places like Guantanamo Bay and stuff like that, to how to psychologically damage the prisoner?
I think from what I kind of gathered as well, a lot of them have been, especially those that kind of do those tasks, because you're considered to be one of the most dangerous in the whole entire country. So I know that a lot of them have had military experience, because there was one that really took a disliking to me, which I'm going to talk to you further about, which I ended up, again, going to court for.
Engage with them.
I engaged with them. Eventually, it came to pass.
It's like they push you to it.
For me, and I'm going to be honest with you, and one of the things that I know, I've always said this and I will keep on, and I know it's become repetitive, but the thing that stuck with me, and look, why would I think about this when the guy is not a friend to us? He's a racist. But I will never forget the conversation that he just wanted to call a family member because his mother died. And they didn't even allow him a phone call. And they said, kick the door again one more time. And he kicked it out of frustration. And I'll never forget the joy in that officer's face when he says, come on, lads, let's boot up. Let's suit up. They beat him so badly.
Oh, a phone call.
Do you know what they done? And imagine this. That's considered one of their own. So imagine what they were doing to the Muslims.
Oh, this was a non-Muslim.
This was a non-Muslim that they done this to. They cut his clothes and so forth. I can tell you stories. Look, eventually they allowed me to have my Quran. I should have bought it.
After how long?
And I'll show you what they tried to do. They actually ripped and damaged the spine of my Quran and handed it to me.
Send me a picture later. I'll put it on the podcast.
Seriously. So that's it. I've had to reconfigure it myself. So you will see it anyway. You can see what I've done to adjust it.
Yeah.
But definitely, this is the Quran that never leaves me.
Wow.
So this is what they've done. But there was one brother, and I'm gonna mention his name as well. There's a few brothers, but there was one in solitary confinement.
Mention whoever's name you like, as long as they're happy with it. We're okay to
So
mention
this
names.
brother, this brother's his first language is not even English. His name is Yaqub. So he's an Asian gentleman, very slim. He's been in this from when I was there. When I first went into solitary, he was already there for 5 years. He's still there, and he's suffering
In the unit.
Yeah, at times they run in and beat him up, and it's horrific.
And what is their justification to why they're doing this?
He's not corresponding.
That's it.
You have to also remember they have a different mindset. I know that things have changed due to Kevin Thackera's family and so forth, so we need to thank them as well. He's a Muslim as well. Kevin Thackera.
I don't know this. Who's this?
So Kevin Thackera's a gentleman that had an incident in Franklin, you might have heard, and officer nearly lost their life.
No, I didn't hear about
And
this.
because of this, they really beat him very badly. Where that he actually won the case. It was recorded. They actually stopped the van, the ACAT van, and they opened the door and actually beat him.
Stop
So
the
there's
ACAT van.
Yeah, there's evidence of this. And eventually it all came out in court and so forth. He won the case, but the backlash is he's still in solitary confinement after all these years. And he went into solitary confinement in 2011, in 2014.
So he's been solitary for over a
I'm sorry,
decade.
2024.
So he's been for over a decade in solitary confinement.
And his health has deteriorated. He's a small brother.
Lost in the system. Nobody cares. Nobody.
It's not. It's a very painful. It's a very painful existence as well. It feels like you're being
His name
buried.
Kevin.
Kevin Thackera.
Kevin Thackera.
Yeah, Thackera. Yeah.
That's very deep, man. They're violating. I never ended up in the dispersals. I got to the BCATs.
Okay.
And I saw the politics there, because some of the BCATs are like dumping grounds for Long Lartin and stuff like that, you know, and whatever. So I was around like a lot of brothers that came from Long Lartin, and you would hear the stories and stuff like that. And we saw things ourselves, but nothing to what you're describing, you know. And like, you know, one of the things I keep hearing out here is people are getting forced to turn Muslim. I never saw one person get forced to turn Muslim.
100%.
Not one, you know. And I was like, okay, where did you know, maybe it happened once, you know, and it's generalized, you know.
But it's not even that though. It's like with anything in life as well. As human beings as well, we're social creatures, and we want to feel attachment to something.
Yeah.
And when they see the unity and the solidarity and the love, they want this. Look, I give you an example. I've given a guy a bar of chocolate and he's embraced Islam because he's never been shown any love before in his life. And he weren't even for that. Sometimes we ask him, like, do you understand what you're, yeah, I just love what you guys do. So it's not even a thing that you're forcing somebody. It's a thing that he actually sees the love, because let's be honest, we live in times now where it's a dog eat dog society. People only care about themselves. People are prepared to step on the necks of others in order to achieve and accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. So when you're actually seeing real, sincere, genuine love. So let's continue with this. So what actually happened was, so as I said, they cut this guy's clothes off and they beat him up and so forth. So eventually, anyway, there was a particular officer. He was very upset. He says, I've lost a lot of my friends in the war, and you want to take, this is his opinion of me. Remember, I'm not in prison for terror-related incidences. He says, you want to take our women, you want to change our culture, and change our life. I hate you. These are the things that he would say to me. He then always, every time I'm out, remember, by then I was on a 6-man unlock. I was then eventually taken off of PPE after after about a year or so,
Okay.
PPE. So I'm still on a 6-man unlock. He would always present himself as the one that's to rub me down. So when they say rubbing down, it's the search and the wounding, and he would always hit me. I would complain about this, saying that, look,
Hit you how? Explain it.
so what he would do is when they're wounding you down like this, he would hit me in my head with the wand and say, oh yeah, sorry. But he kept on doing it. So that means that
Provoking you.
really and truly, you mean to do this. So eventually, they allowed me to, there was a room, it's an ironing room. So you're allowed to go in there eventually, because there is like categories. So eventually when you've worked your way, you get little bits and you can have little items eventually. I went to iron my clothing for a visit. So how the visits work as well, depending on what status you were. So I started with Perspect. What's his name? Will tell you anyway, Lou, because Lou and his father came to visit me once. And
Oh, you know him well like that, yeah?
it's my neighbour.
Oh,
I've known him all my life.
Okay.
Lewis Clark.
Yeah, Lewis Clark.
Yeah,
Oh, your
that's
neighbour.
my
He's a
brother,
good
yeah.
guy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on
His
to
father, yeah, his father's like my uncle.
Okay.
Knew me our whole entire life.
He's a very good guy, man.
Yeah, they visited me, yeah. So the Perspect lasts, and then from there, you could be on a visit and you would be by yourself. By being by your self though, with your family, it's quite intimidating. Because you would have, like, if I'm on a 6-man unlock, you have 6 officers right around you. You're having a visit, it's kind of awkward. So it's like me and you having a conversation.
On the visit.
Yeah, they're around you.
And it's closed.
Yeah, they're around you.
It's mad. Just listen to you talking to your family.
Yeah, and so that's how it was. Unfortunately, the incident happened where he said, let's get him. So obviously, I lashed out. Unfortunate for him, I hit him with the iron and so forth. But the thing was that weren't making sense. They're saying that I deliberately, but if you think about how their protocol is supposed to work, they leave the iron and the ironing board right at the back. So as soon as you step in, they close the door. So why was the door still open? Unless you had intentions of attacking me in the first place.
Yeah.
But none of these things are actually shown and demonstrated. Do you understand? So when this incident happened, they was obviously they had the first response, the officers, because remember I'm on a 6-man unlock. So the first response, that means more officers. Second response, they need more. And then third response, the whole prison goes onto lockdown, and that's what they done with me, our third response, whilst I was still engaging with them. Now, what do you think? The incident started with me and him, but who do you think they mentioned? A woman officer got injured in the process of that. I got convicted for that as well. Now, at first I was thinking maybe she did, because when they're hitting you with batons and everything else as well, and you don't know, your hands are swinging, you don't know who you're hitting. But when we looked at the footage, she crashed into the table. Now, what the judge actually said to the jury was that we understand that he may not have directly, but his actions has resulted in the officer getting injured. So I still got convicted for that one. And that's the one that they were mentioning on my parole board. The woman. Yeah, because they try to emasculate you. So this is what they try to...
you hit a woman, basically.
This is what they tend to do, rather than actually looking at the nature of it. There's 6 officers. They trained professional. They trained to take you down, because they're the creme de la creme of the officers. Plus, not only that as well, there was more than the 6 officers, because they had the first response, the second response, and now the third response. These weren't proud moments, but you have to also understand when your back is against the wall as well.
You're gonna do everything.
And I couldn't. They said, oh, couldn't you do anything else? No, because I knew that I was a goner. If I fell on that floor, I knew that the possibility was I was not going to get back up again. So these were very difficult times. So anyway, let's break. So remember this as well. We're still going back to the cases that I'm still fighting for in regards to the gentleman's throat that has been cut, plus all the other officers that have actually been injured. Remember, these cases are still going on at the same time. So this is when I knew I was in trouble. Eventually, the judge was thinking like, what is all this? They started to come up with this terrorism. So how they started with me as well, they basically said that I was connected to the Taliban.
From prison.
Yeah. They said that I had outside links, that I was connected to outside organizations that was ready to, on my command, to commit atrocities on the streets of Britain. These are very serious charges, allegations.
Just because some officer wrote it down on a piece of paper.
No, but it gets the plot even thickens like that. And then I really found out the true nature of this. Now, the person whose throat got cut, he's from Afghanistan. He is Northern Alliance. Okay. I'm led to believe a family member of his or a friend of his, somebody close, is within government there, which they wanted him to, obviously, they're in support of American and Britain. Yeah. Or whatever kind of country. That's not me. We're not politicians here. Yeah. But this is what's actually happening. So it made sense why they were so angry. Because the case got thrown out. The Crown Prosecution Service, the prison authorities took me to the appeal courts. I had to go in front of the 3 judges and got it overturned, and I had to go back into court.
I've never heard of that before.
Come on, you can ask. The brothers are my witness. You can ask anybody. Anyone will testify for that. Ask us. Ask anybody.
Yeah, we're really trying to ruin your life completely.
So that weren't the end of it. And this is where that I have to congratulate, because you have to also understand this was let's not only talk about me and focus about me as well. Let's talk about some of the brothers, especially like for me, Abdul Rahim, Chaos. Let's talk about this brother as well, because he made a lot of sacrifices. And you have to also understand, these brothers weren't prepared to be blackmailed, weren't prepared to be bullied, and they were prepared to speak the truth. They came and testified for me. So you need to understand the backlash what these brothers are also suffering. And remember, they've also, for years, have been targeting him. So that just gave them more excuses to justify the ill treatment that is being merited out to these individuals. It's not pleasant.
I obviously have spoken to Abdul Rahim's people, his family, via intermediary. And one of the things that really shocked me, because of the way they portray him and the way they deal with him, and he's constantly in the security unit in Belmarsh or whatever, is that he hasn't had people on the outside don't understand what a nicking is. A nicking is basically a disciplinary. He hasn't had one until since 2006, which will make him, like, on paper, a model prisoner.
101%.
But yet he's constantly in segregation. He's constantly in the unit. So when I've asked questions and looked into it, the issue seemed to be, so when he goes onto a wing, he tells the Muslims especially, don't sell drugs. You're not allowed to sell drugs. It's against our religion. He tells them to pray. And the prison system is upset with him, amongst other reasons, obviously. But that's one of the reasons. And what they do is, this is my understanding, I don't know about anybody else. So he goes onto the wing. He says, so one time he's gone onto a wing, some of the Muslims are selling spice. So he said, look, you can't sell spice. You can't sell it to non-Muslims, and you can't sell it to Muslims. You can't sell it to anyone. So the brothers, because they respect him, they stop selling it. It's okay, no problem. He tells the brothers you should pray. They took that as he's implementing the Sharia on the wing.
I don't know. That's a standard thing that all Muslims are.
Yeah, but that's how they, in these SIRs and stuff like that.
I know. And this is what's so sad as well, because I've spoken to imams about this. I'm saying that sometimes imams, you lot need to speak out as well, because you're harming Muslims. You're giving khutbah and you're telling us to do the right thing. That if there's other Muslims selling drugs as well, that you must inform them not to, and so forth. When brothers are doing this, brothers are being reprimanded. It's not like you're threatening them. It's not like you're fighting them. You're just saying that, brother, I disagree with your actions. I love you for the sake of Allah, but what you're doing is actually wrong. This is harmful, not only to the Muslims, but harmful for humanity at whole. We're here to try to change our lives.
One thing, I say to a lot of the imams and the Muslim community leaders we have on YouTube or wherever it may be, on TikTok or whatever, that the plight of the people in prison, especially, you know, Muslims, but even the non-Muslims, the way they're getting treated like animals, bro. Some of the treatment, people treat their dogs better than how some people are getting treated, especially in the high security system.
101%, because when I got moved, so when that incident happened, and obviously I was in a bad way, my ribs were fractured. So they were moving, they moved me to Full Sutton. Now I was expecting for there to be serious repercussions, because we know about Full Sutton and their seg at that time and what they were engaging in. But when they saw the state of the condition that I was in, my ribs and so forth, they said, listen, we're not accepting responsibility. He's not dying on our watch. And so I had it x-rayed and everything else. But the things that they would do as well, I will never forget this as well. It was like December times. It's really cold. It's snowing. It's up in north. To go way up north. And one blanket. These are the things that individuals don't understand psychologically as well. Like one blanket. Like it'll be like
freezing.
And I'm hugging against the pipes. I'm trying to get some warmth. Things such as even food-wise, like it's chicken and chips, but they'll just put 2 chip on my plate and half of the chicken thigh. So where's the rest of my chicken? So now you're trying to starve me. And it was so sad as well, because I'm going to share with you a story what actually happened, and I understood the kind of demonic presence that I was around. So on the wings, there was Ramadan. And for some reason, they wanted some extra hands to help with the food. They found out that they were short. So there was lots of brothers. There was about at least 20 brothers that basically got no food. So there was this SO. And she was like, well, what can I do? Brothers are not hearing that. They've just been fasting for the last 16 hours. So they jumped over. I gave one brother my food. There was no more. And I said, brothers, and I said, look, brothers, before you do what you want to do, can I just say one thing? And like, they were listening to me. They were engaging with me. I said, go on, brother Yusuf. I said, allow me just to pose to her one question. And then after that, then I understand, because I'm also going without food. You've seen that I've got no food as well. So I said, yeah, go on, brother. So before, they used to have a tuck shop in Whitemore. So I used to have like tunas and mackerels. I said, so miss, what about if you open up that tuck shop and you give us like noodles and mackerels and so forth, and that will cover that day for our food? She said, oh yeah, good idea. They done that. And I said, brothers, are you happy with this? They said, yeah. So everybody was happy. We got, the tunas, the mackerels and everything else and so forth. So problem solved.
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
She was shaking and she said, oh, thank you so very much. I said, I didn't do it for you. I done it for them, because I understand the repercussions after this.
What's going to happen, yeah.
So let's fast forward it now. So now I'm being moved all up and down the country. I'm in the SEG. So I heard that she's now been promoted to SO. So now deep down, I'm in myself going, yes.
She owes you a favor.
Yeah, I'm happy now. Yeah. I'm thinking she's cool. Like, she's safe.
Yeah.
Like, yes. At least I'm gonna get some respite for, even if it's a week or so. At least it's like some type of respite.
Yeah.
I got a cleaner. He says, look, Yusuf, I like you. Don't eat the food today. I said, okay. Then an officer. So there's not all bad officers, but I'm going to tell you one thing. There was an officer and she said, I don't agree with what's going on. Don't eat the food. 2 people told me not to eat the food.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So I'm thinking it might not be her fault, because I understand about peer pressure and so forth. Like when there's a group of people, like sometimes a person could, not everyone's brave. Remember, I'm trying to have compassion here, because I understand that sometimes through peer pressure, you could be a weak person. What do you think she's done? Because remember, we're being fed by hatches, so they come and bring the food. This is when I knew I was dealing with a real demon. She came to my door. She said, oh, it's so nice, the food today. You sure you don't want none? this is a person that I saved. This is a person that I helped.
Scandalous.
She said, it's so nice. Please taste some.
Do you know what they done to the food?
No, they didn't say.
Something vile.
Then the woman came back again and she said, look, they're going to let you out because I put an application to have a shower. She said, look, they're looking to jump you. So don't take the bait. That's what she whispered quickly and then she just looked left and right and then she was off.
So you get good people sometimes.
Yeah, of course. No. There was some good. She didn't agree with it.
Yeah.
I think she's left. Yeah, she left. So anyway, this particular, I know for legal reasons, we can't mention this officer now. Couldn't stand him. The right one they got as well. So they knew they had it all planned out. And he was like, yeah, so we're going to break you. You know that, don't you?
What the hell is wrong with these guys?
So I'm looking at him. And he was, I understood then that he was the sacrificial lamb. Because they expect me to put my hands on him. And they know that me and him have a dislike for each other. So this is going to be, but then I look slightly to my left and they were all hiding around the corner. They were waiting.
Waiting for you to put your hands on him.
And then I didn't say nothing. And so what they started to do as well, they started to play games. Like saying that I could not have a neighbor. Because sometimes when you're in solitary confinement as well, the thing that you look forward to the most is having like a partner, like just having a neighbor so you can actually just converse. Don't matter who it is. You just want to converse with someone. So they were saying that I was too influential. Then on the yard as well, they'll basically say that have me on the yard by myself because there'll be like different yards. And sometimes you look forward because you get to see who you're talking to and you can converse with them. And then they'll say, no, I had to go out by myself. And with an officer, some of the officers took compassion and they started talking to me and they're saying that I'm having, because they would pose the question like, why is he still here? Like he's not doing nothing. And they'll say, no, you've just been manipulated by Mr. Patterson. So you need 2 officers. So all this was actually happening. It was just kind of crazy. And then what they done, the final insult as well, they sandwiched me between 2 very racist guys. I call them EDLs. So what would happen is that when I used to walk past as well, you used to hear them. They used to sing a song. Little Monkey on the treetop. And they'll go, where's the banana? Where's the banana? So they go, little monkey on the treetop. Seriously. Sometimes I had to pause, I had to look and they go, where's the banana? Where's the banana? And then
guys.
Yeah. And when I used to give them an education now,
the
officers say, you're nicked. You're inciting. These are the things that they used to say. And they used to do it to all the brothers. They used to say some things that I'm not going to repeat here. We can't repeat about our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all these types of things. There was one that even burnt a Quran. How did he get a Quran in the first place? You know he's a top racist. He's burnt a Quran and you know this. He's provoking. But you say that, no, we're provoking. So all these things were actually happening. So what they will do is they'll take it in turns. I'll never forget these 2 racist guys. So one will start with all the kind of abuse through the day. Then he will get his sleep. And then the other one through the night. And they will rotate it that way.
Wow, and you're in the middle.
Yeah, I'm in the middle. So, you know, I used to have conversations with them, innit? And I said, and I used to say to them as well that
you never physically like.
No,
you can't. You're behind the door all the time, basically.
Yeah, behind the door. Remember,
just so the people understand.
Yeah, I'm in solitary confinement.
Yeah, hang on.
So I used to educate them. I used to like say to them like, you know that there was a Black King of Britain, Kenneth MacDoop. You know this, don't you? And they'll go mad. No, there's no end. No ends ever run this country. There's no, like, you know, they'll go all mad. And I'll say, so why are you so upset for? Like, people can see that as I'm trying to provoke them. But remember, They're bothering me all the time.
Yeah, of course.
They're saying all these
They
things.
never get nicked.
Never got nicked until one of them, again, I'm going to tell you, this is why you put your trust in Allah, and we keep civil. Even in the midst of what is actually going on, when you keep your own integrity, Allah makes it easy for you, because one of them took his life.
In the sick.
Yeah, he took his life.
While you were there.
Mm.
I don't feel sorry for him, but it is what it is, isn't it? Look
So
at
what's
that.
That's 4.
Because you know what it is? These people are miserable within themselves, you know that?
101%.
And they want to take that misery out on other people. And that's one of the channels they've got.
And what was so sad as well, that you can see the officers laughing about this as well. Even having like a little giggle. Especially when they used to sing the song, and you want to see it, like they had a chorus to it and everything. Like, you know, like now you have to now, but you have to laugh, like little monkey, like it's mad. Like even like on a yard, and you walk past some of them and they all waving their hands, like, you know, like it's like a football scene, like they're on a terrace or something. And then they go like, you know, they put their heart and soul into it, like they go like, where's the banana? Where's the banana? Like, you know, like you have to laugh though, because how else can you manage that without going crazy? Like they would all be singing. And so I used to wind them off as like, yeah, like, you know, like you just, I say you idiots, man.
You know, it's quite obvious that a portion of prison officers kind of help these racist inmates to either attack Muslims or mock them or mock the religion and stuff like that. They kind of assist them in it and make it easy for them to do it, and there's no repercussions for them.
No, definitely. And I've always said this as well, because one of the things that surprised me as well was that how two-faced that they were as well sometimes. And it's very hard to, I can understand that why some people may have a negative opinion about some people that have a duty of care. And I give you an example. I got along with one particular officer. I had not had a problem with him, so they were transferring me. There was a few of them. So where was I going? I think I was going Long Lartin. So I had to move to the second Long Lartin. So we're on the van. Now, they're talking about, I think there was a boat that capsized and there was a little kid that was killed, that died. It capsized, a little Muslim kid. I think it was Turkey or whatever, it capsized.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this. I heard the officer say,
yes, the Syrian kid, I think it was. Yeah.
I heard the officer say, I don't care about that. What are they coming over here for anyway? And I'm thinking, this is a child.
Ruthless, man.
And I'm saying that you're showing no compassion. I don't care. I don't care
what color religion he is.
What color, what faith, what kind of... That's a child. And you're saying that you don't care. And I'm glad that he didn't come to Britain.
Look at that.
And I said, what am I really dealing with here?
And they're the people that are handling you in prison, in charge of you.
101%.
If they could get away with killing you, they would have killed you. If they knew they would get away with it, they would have done it.
Yeah, there was times where though, but we have to be honest here as well. There was times where that another officer grabbed and said that, listen, I'm not going to prison for this. They've had me and you're choking. You can hear when somebody's choking and wheezing. They've got you. And the other officer let go of his neck. I'm not going to prison for this.
How many times, just to, you know, give people a context, would you say you were assaulted? I'm not talking about restrained, I'm talking about assaulted by prison officers. How many different occasions in that 22 years?
I've lost count.
Roughly, if you could just throw out a figure.
It's more than 20.
That's nuts. That's like every year, basically. That's deep,
but listen,
man.
I'm not here to feel sorry for myself, because I understand that I was a person as well. But the thing that I don't like as well is that when people are making real changes and the system doesn't allow you to. And again, I'm going to say this as well. There is a lot of unfair things that are actually happening. Look, then the biggest shock of my life happened. So let's fast forward it now. I'm trying to fast forward it so we can give because we want to keep on this subject as well.
Of course, yeah. This is the main subject.
So, parole board, parole hearing. Had the biggest shock. Now, what they're saying is halfway through my parole that I have to leave. Could you imagine somebody leaving their parole hearing? They're saying that they've got information and intelligence that cannot be shared whilst I'm present. Then they said my barrister had to fill out a form that she's liable for imprisonment if it leaks out.
Wow. Draconian, man. This is just madness.
Then they do this thing that the public has to be aware of as well. It's called probability. So, for example, as well, I was found not guilty for the cutting of the throat and the injury of the officer. I was found not guilty in a court of law. Let's say that it was thrown out. So, not thrown out, sorry, I was found not guilty.
Yeah.
There's no arguments about that. Now, what happened is when I had my parole hearing, they were saying that we understand what the judges said. See, they're not even playing by their own rules. They're saying, we understand what the judge said, but we're not convinced. We believe you did do it. So that's what probability is.
So what was the point of the whole court case? Just they're making it up as they go along.
Now you understand. So this is the kind of challenges that many brothers are, and it's actually hindering their progression, because that's all somebody needs to do. The constant, even when I was, one of the biggest problems that I had, funny enough, was when I was in Brixton prison. Coming to it, like I was in a CCAT, now I was in LPU, I'm close to home, trying to, and the amount of security searches that I've had was unbelievable. Every other week I was getting, you can ask my wife, they're making all kind of, then I found out another intel they had, that they were concerned. They said that they believe that I'm radicalizing my mum.
Sorry.
Yeah. This was a big thing.
These people are crazy, They just throw things out. You know what I realized talking to you? It's only talking to you I realized this. This stuff we keep seeing in the papers the last 10, 15 years about Muslims in prison, radicalizing people. This is from them. They've put this information out just to justify their actions. So no matter what they
100%.
do to the prisoners in jail now, the public will say, yeah, but they're mad anyway, so just keep doing it.
Yeah, of course. They're terrorists and so forth.
It makes sense, because I was like, I spent 5 years behind the door. Not 5 years. I spent 5 years behind the door. I said, bro, I've never seen someone forced to turn Muslim.
That's right.
I've never seen someone say, let's go beat up a non-Muslim just because you're a non-Muslim.
That's right.
I was like, I was asking myself, what prison did this happen in? Like where does this happen? But I didn't see it.
You know what's so crazy as well? This is when I knew that I was really dealing with something that was just so horrendous. They done so many things, and the psychologists as well. They're the ones that actually cement it. So what some psychologists...
So the psychologists, before you start...
Psychologists,
yeah. Do they kind of side with the prison system?
Yeah, they do. They sit on the fence.
They sit on the fence. All right, continue.
So I will say the good ones sit on the fence. The bad ones are the ones that go with the prisons, even though there's no evidence to actually back it up. Now look, I totally understand, but you're ruining lives though, and this is what I tried to explain to them. And then I knew something. So how I came to terms, because they said, oh, how come you deal with it so calmly? So, oh yeah, they also accused me as well that, no, you're too controlled. So too controlled. But I'm actually saying that, so even if I say, for example, if you're not controlled, then that's another 2 years. So how am I supposed to conduct myself? Because either way, I'm doing different. There's no
either you're a madman or you're a controller. Which one is it?
Yeah, there's no winning. And I realized this through Aesop fables. This is what made me kind of calm down. And it's the story of the wolf and the lamb. And remember the story of so there was a wolf and he wanted to devour the lamb. So what he done was he positioned himself on the upper part of the stream. Then he shouted down to the lamb, because remember, these people are always trying to find excuses. He said, you're muddying up the waters. So the lamb shouted back and said, but the water flows downstream, not up. So how can I be doing this? So the wolf then said, a year ago, you insulted my father. So the lamb said, I wasn't even born a year ago. So the wolf smiled and he said, you know what, you have an answer for everything. But I'm going to devour you anyway. So that's how I saw it.
That's how it was.
Irrespectively.
But what you do.
So it was a damage limitation. So what's the best way that I can position myself so that I can just try to keep myself as safe as possible? And this is what you're dealing with. But you know what gave me strength as well? And this is why Islamically as well. Surah Al-Araf. I think it's ayah 123. And what does it say? So we know the story of Musa when he confronted the magicians and eventually they embraced Islam. But they saw that this was no optical illusion. This was actually a blessing. This is a mercy from Allah. And what does Pharaoh actually say to the magicians? Look what he says. Have I given you permission to believe in him? That's Musa. Surely this is a plot which you have plotted.
That's what he said to Musa, isn't it? Yeah.
This is what he said to the magicians. Pharaoh. So the Pharaoh. Then he turns around to the magicians and what does he say again to them? He says, surely I will cut off your hands and feet from opposite sides and crucify you. That's 124. That's what he says. In 125, what did they say? Look at this. Why can't we respond? And they were only Muslims for a few seconds. Look what they said. They said, so 125 now, look what they say. They say, verily, we will return to our Lord. Look what they said. Look at their response there. MashaAllah. Verily, we will return to our Lord. Then what is he... Then what did they say in response to this? Because as Muslims, we don't just assume something. So look what they ask. 126, what did they ask? They say, you take vengeance on us because we believe in the ayah of our Lord? Then what did they say? They then say, oh Lord, pour on us patience and cause us to die as Muslims. So they knew then there was no compromising. So then they said, Alhamdulillah, do what you want to do. Alhamdulillah. And these are lessons. These are teachings that we can actually learn. Look what he's actually saying.
Because if you put this in the context of what you're saying is the system is saying, you could be like a rude boy Muslim, sell crack, whatever, carry on. But when you become orthodox and you want to really practice your deen, we can't have that.
101%. You have to stand by that.
And that's really what they're against, Orthodox Islam.
And what does Malcolm X actually say as well? A man who stands for nothing will fall for anything.
Exactly, yeah.
So what are you? Are you a clown? Are you a joker? And this is it. I remember me and my wife, we were sitting down because sometimes we like to go through the dictionary, and there was a word. Yeah, I know it's gonna make you laugh. Hoddy noddy. You know what that means? It means a foolish person. So I'll say to the young people as well, what are you? Are you a hoddy noddy? So we have to open and expand our minds as well. We can't allow ourselves to be limited. And one of the things that I've actually learned as well is this is a time for us as well, because a lot of us as well, we're trying to make everybody happy, but we anger our Lord.
That's true.
And if you go to Surah An-Naml, the ant, so I think it's Surah 27. If you go to Ayah 18, so it's about Suleiman and his hosts, and they're going through a valley full of ants. And Suleiman, alayhi salam, he hears a female ant, and she shouts out to the rest of her colony, and she says, go into your dwelling, lest Solomon should trample on you, even though he's unaware. And he smiled when he heard this. Because he understood that the languages of animals and creatures. And you know what the scholars actually say in regards to this? This female ant knew something which we as human beings still struggle to understand. She knew that her survival and existence depended on the survival and existence of her community. If her community was destroyed, she knew that she would be destroyed. And we're so foolish, we don't understand this.
We don't understand, that's true.
We're only as strong as our weakest member.
Like I said, man, what you're doing, what you're trying to do for the brothers, as you said, you made a promise to them.
Wallahi.
And you're fulfilling that promise, inshallah, as well.
Wallahi.
And this, you know what, I know certain things, I've been in the system myself, but what you're telling me is just mind-blowing even for me, because it just seems on a whole different level inside that dispersal system, what they're doing. And it just seems like a complete violation. It's beyond that. It is more like, it's criminal what they're doing.
101%.
It's criminal.
Individuals' lives are being ruined. You need to, irrespectively of whatever your views are of an individual as well, that person still has a right to live. It's wrong what's actually going on. I can understand that if somebody's causing the disruption, somebody is doing something which you have evidence. Don't hypothesize. Find the evidence. If there's evidence, but there's no evidence. But how do you determine your evidence? By saying that, well, at the end of the day, if an officer says it, then it's correct. And so that's it. Then that seals you.
That's done. Where's the justice?
101%.
You know, it's just a case of like, they have made the people in that system the judge, jury, executioner, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know, the little experience I have with prison solicitors, they can't do much because there's no like framework in there. There's no one overlooking. There's nothing you could do. It's just whatever if they say security, that's it. It's done.
And this is why that I looked forward to coming to this podcast as well, because I want to appeal to our brothers as well, that we are stronger than what you think we are. Allow us to have a platform. Brothers, please support what we're trying to do. The more, then we can, inshallah, we can try to get to the public, the mainstream media. But we need your help. We need the brothers. We come from a big community. A Muslim community in this country is big. It's large.
It's nearly 5 million, man.
5 million. So imagine if they support your podcast.
Some countries don't have 5 million population. Countries don't have that.
So what I'm actually saying is, brothers, please, look, my Instagram, Dwaine Patterson and number 3. DWAINE, Patterson, PATTERSON, 3. Please support this, because it's beyond just thinking about ourselves now. We need to think about these brothers and what they're going through, and their families as well, because they're being affected. For example, as well. So now, let's just fast forward a lot of things, because I want to show you the magnitude of how harmful that this is. Let's forget everything else when you was here, there. That's not important. Let's just talk about what the backlash is.
Yeah.
So I'm in open conditions now. So I'm excited now. My wife's crying. I'm happy. Alhamdulillah. That was even problems as well, because she embraced Islam. Obviously, she's Muslim as well. Oh, look, see, he's radicalized again. All this rubbish. Now, they said, probation called me. They said that, somebody wants to talk to you. So I'm saying, yeah, who? They said, you'll find out. And I think, what's the great secret? Is it probation? Is it my probation officer? Is it who? So anyway, I approach. This young lady comes on. Oh, hello, Mr. Patterson. Just to let you know, you are now assigned to us. Excuse me, who? National Security Division.
So upon your release?
Before that, whilst I was in open conditions. So now I'm with National Security Division. I was with them for what, Princess? I think 3.5 years.
What was the purpose of that? Because they think you're a threat.
So basically I had a GPS. As soon as I came out, I was limited on my job opportunities as well, because they had to clear everything. So imagine if you're an employee in an employer. How are you going to employ somebody who they're approaching you now and they're basically saying that, this guy is basically a terrorist.
And there's nothing in your background to suggest that?
No.
Nothing.
So remember, I got even asked the wife as well. I applied for over 20 plus jobs and I got all knocked back. And what's important as well is for, especially a resident when you're first coming out of prison as well, is finance, accommodation, and occupation. These are the 3 important aspects that determines your, sometimes it could determine your survival. When it was the king's coronation as well, I was excluded. I couldn't even go work.
Wow, just because of the coronation, you're a threat basically.
101%. They've only approved because I'm off, because I'll tell you that in a minute. So I couldn't do no public speaking. That's one of the major ones. I couldn't go to no mosque. They was
mosques.
no, I couldn't go to a mosque. It has to be approved by them.
It seemed like they're actually trying to radicalize you. Like they're trying.
So yeah, everything. I'm not gonna say that that particular person that was assigned to me was a very, but I understand that they're following orders.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is, we say this, but the problem that I have with this as well is they have a thing called joint enterprise. So they call you guilty by association.
Yeah.
So if I'm with somebody, I know he's doing something that is wrong and I accept it, even if I didn't, but I'm still with him, I'm also found guilty and punished as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So don't that rule apply to them as well then?
Exactly, yeah.
Irrespectively, I understand that you say you're only doing your job, but you're ruining lives here. We were basically, it was crazy. So I said to them at the end of it, like once they took me off of all these measures and I had the police assigned to me, I had somebody from the Home Office that I had to see every week. And I said to them, so where was this great major plan that I was supposed to do in the streets of Britain? Where's all these things? I said, look, I'm still here. So did you find anything?
Nonsense.
And he was like, oh no, but we're only doing our jobs. I said, I understand that, but these are things that need to be explored because, for example, look at what happened to brother Umar Jones. We're forgetting this brother as well. He was so Umar Jones is a brother that was in open conditions, and I'll mention his name. He was going to and fro from work, working outside the prison. There was not a problem. So one day, what happened? They then said to him, now he's assigned to national security. He's a type of brother as well, mashallah, alhamdulillah. He's a very inquisitive person, so he just throwing bare questions. My wife sometimes shouts at me, she said, you need to ask more questions. I'm just like, princess, you know how these people are, just go with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow.
But he's not like that.
Yeah.
He's like my wife. No, why is this? Why is that? He's making sense in what he's saying. So here's what they've done. The first insult that they've done. They said that now there's a problem. He can't go home anymore on his home leaves because there's a minor in his house. He said, yeah, that's my child. He says, I've got no offense against children. They said, no, but because you're up now because you're deemed as radicalized.
We'll radicalize him.
Now there's a concern. You need social services. So can you understand how they're destroying the dynamics of the family? House. So he's thinking like, listen, there ain't no one coming to my house. What do you think happened? They kicked him out of DCAT. They recalled him. They said that he was in a tattoo parlor. That's their excuse. But there's no rule that states he can't be in a tattoo parlor, even if he was. Yeah, and they moved him. Even though that people found out the real reasons why he was actually removing an old tattoo that he used to have in times of Jahiliyyah, which we all supposed to do if we got tattoos.
Just try and remove a tattoo, that's deep.
So now I don't know where he is now.
This seems to be like a very high level of like bigotry from these people. I want to ask you a question no one's asked before. What is the role of the prison imams in prison, in your opinion, especially these high security prisons? Are they an assistance? Are they a hindrance? Or are they just shook to get involved? Like, this is very important.
Do you know what? It's sad to say, look, there is some good imams in the prison and there is some imams that don't agree with what's going on. But I just believe as well, it's a gimmick. It's a mascot because there's nothing that they can do. Like if they talk out against it, they get rid of them or they accuse them or something. And then you have other imams as well that, let's be honest, they don't have the best of intentions as well. So they fall into this, they fall into this, this unjustified levels of scrutiny, even though they know it's actually wrong. And it's ridiculous. I can tell you wholeheartedly. Look, what used to happen to me as well when I always used to get books sent in. It would take me 2 months to receive them because they'll go through page by page with my books. So eventually, security gave me my books. I'm going to tell you some tough stairs.
So tafsir for people who don't understand is
Yes.
an explanation of the Quran. Basically.
Yeah, explanation of the Quran. And I thought that they would embrace that because they're saying that people are interpreting things from the Quran. So I'm getting it from the scholars, which is not a problem. Now, what do you think they've done? So they were searching my soul in Brixton. They were searching my soul constantly. Everywhere. They couldn't find nothing. So I had a mobile phone. I was in contact with all these types of individuals. Eventually, one day, they're bagging up all my tafsirs. I'm saying, what's the problem here? Oh, these books are not banned. You can have them, but there's an interpreter that we're unsure of. I said, may I pose a question to you? Weren't you the one that handed me the books in the first place?
Yeah.
You had it for 2 months. You scrutinized my books. I said, you know what? Alhamdulillah, take it.
Was trying to provoke you.
No, those are price to pay though. So anyway, I'm in front of the parole board now. They were saying that, why were you having radical books? I said, excuse me?
It's Tafsir Ibn Kathir probably.
Yeah. So they're saying that, I said, but they handed it to me in the first place. And they said, oh, is it? So these are the kind of tactics.
Games and stuff.
These are the
played.
tactics that they have actually played.
And you said they had some sort of Islamic expert at the parole hearing.
Yeah. So what was kind of crazy as well, I don't know who this guy was, this gentleman.
Muslim
No?
or non-Muslim Islamic expert.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. This, I don't know where he came from. I don't know anything about this gentleman. But he was going back from 13th century Ibn Taymiyyah. He was going in. And I was saying, okay. He was asking me all these types of questions that I know that this is a man that has actually must have studied, must have been abroad, do you understand? So he was asking me all these numerous, but what was the conclusion? There's nothing, of course, that's my faith. I love my faith. Look, even the imam, they had this imam, so I forgot what they actually call it. When I was in open conditions as well, I had to see this imam every week. And he'll sit down and he'll go through the Quran with me. You see, after the 4th session, he said, what is this? He says, wasting my time. That's what he said. He said, there's nothing. He says that, mashallah, alhamdulillah, this is what a Muslim is supposed to be doing.
Mashallah. So he spoke up.
He did. I have to give that to the imam as well. And we have to, you know who you are. And thank you, brother. But guess what the Home Office said to him? He said, listen, we didn't tell you to stop. Go back and do it again. We want another report.
Wow.
So then the imam said that, look, listen, I'm sorry, brother, but I have to do this again. And he gave them the same report again and they weren't happy. So what was you hoping to do? So imagine that if he had a weak level of Iman as well, then what would
they
he
wanted?
They told him, no, we're not happy with this. So can you go back and...
Try and pressure him basically to what they wanted to hear. Obviously to release you, the parole had to authorize it. What was their conclusion in the end when they let you out?
Oh, they gave me a whole lot of conditions. It was absolutely crazy. Ask the wife, it was from everything from public speaking, not military. All these things. I'm thinking, that not like if I was in the army.
Do you think to release you, their hand was forced because it's been so long now, 22 years on a 7-year sentence?
No, I gave them no reason. I made sure. And I have to also, we need to mention this again as well, especially in the high security and all the other estates as well. We have to congratulate the brothers. The brothers really protected me. And I could never forget them. I'm never going to turn my back on them. Seriously. And I'm looking at, our beautiful brothers and sisters here as well. And I'm telling you, the brothers protected me. Anytime there was an incident, I give you an example. the brothers would frog march me to my cell and shut the door. Or tell me that, listen, please, brother, don't be here at that time. And even then, there were still accusations.
That's exactly the same thing that's happening now with Abdul Rahim.
Of course it is.
You know, but they're still on him. They're still on his case.
And it's sad, and he's, you know, and let's look at the length of time that he has as well, and everything else as well.
Did you meet him in the prison system?
Of course I did. I trained with him.
Oh, in the gym, yeah?
Yeah, I trained with him. We used to, it was funny though, because when I came out of, eventually I came out of solitary confinement. So after 7 years, I was in solitary confinement for 7 years.
7 years.
Now,
hold on, in one go.
in one go.
7 years in solitary confinement.
Yeah, I thought you knew, brother.
I thought it was broken over periods of want
to add them broken in piece of time, then I've done much more than that. I said, like, yeah, I'm talking about the whole.
So you've done about a decade in solitary confinement in total?
Probably more than that.
And how long in the unit? That's obviously part of solitary
That's
confinement.
solitary confinement. So the units and segs, that's where they move you around. So for 7 years, I was there.
Wow.
So when I initially came out as well, you know, sometimes as well how the human psyche works, you still sometimes feel that you have the ability to lift certain amount of weights, or you can do certain type of exercise. And I realized I was all disjointed. I was all over the place. I was struggling with the bar.
You've been in there for that long.
It was crazy. And then what happened was, but the pathway out, I was there for about 7. So I was with Katab. We have to greet that brother as well, Gary Nelson, Katab, and so forth. Yeah, please. Me and him, we used to, he bought me a nice dictionary as well. So thank you, brother. We used to, so the pathway out, so there's a unit, there's a pathway out, and they allow you to all mix. That's like the final stage before they're going to push you back onto the wings.
Okay.
And so we were cooking, we eating, so I just put on weight, so I just got kind of fat. Like, you just pile on a lot of weight, but you know,
carbs,
you still, you're still. But it was funny though, because when it was so beautiful as well. All the brothers came out and greeted me. There was Abdul Rahim, there was everybody. All the brothers came out, and I used to, obviously, it was helping me build back up my fitness. So we used to jog, and like, they're all gone in it, and I'm just there puddling along. Like, remember, I'm not used to all this again. Like running
7 years.
Yeah, even when I played football, I tried to do a step over and I fell over. Like, everyone started to laugh.
You
like,
still thought you had the skills, innit?
It affects you. You don't realize that even physically how much of an effect that it has. So anyway, I'm running. So you beat me, innit? So I'm like, I'm fuming. Like, you know, one of those ones. I'm thinking, no way. I used to be able to run. So then eventually I started to get better, and then, you know, the brother knew I started to beat him. But it was nice. It was a nice little
community.
It was a nice little community until again they start messing with the brother again, and then all of a sudden he's gone. One day he's gone.
Are they dealing with Hatab the same way?
Yeah, they were, because remember they put him in solitary confinement for 9 years. We need to understand this.
9 years,
and they said it's because he's influential, not because he.
Wow.
See, this is what I'm saying.
Not because he done it because you're influential. That's
you're also forgetting as well, Ezra Taylor as well. Danger from Nottingham.
Same situation.
He spent 5 years. Shamsuddin. 5 years.
This is people don't understand what this solitary confinement is, you know that.
Then we're forgetting brothers such as like DC, let's just say DC. People who knows him, yes. But even the trials and tribulations that these brothers went through, people are forgetting. Let's talk about brother, I'm just gonna say Bash. People know who he is, Asian brother, Bash. All of what these brothers went through. Abdul Rahman, another Asian brother. All these brothers. You don't understand what they were subjected to.
Do you think is a deliberate look? I've read stuff about, you know, tactics that they've used in other, you know, America to try to psychologically make people go mad. Like literally, is a step-by-step kind of plan how to make somebody go mad. Do you think, without them saying it, this is being implemented on the Muslims, certain Muslims, Orthodox Muslims in prison, to put them into the unit, i.e. segregation, for them long periods of time to make them go mad?
But it's proven though, because a lot of I don't want to mention names as well, because I understand that their families may want them to be, it's not something
Yeah, of course, yeah.
but you have to understand this as well, that a lot of the brothers that were in solitary confinement as well ended up going Broadmoor. So you can, I know that they done, and thank you to Kevin Thackeray's family and so forth, that they also exposed. I know that there's been changes now. I don't know how much changes, but in our times, there was something like 95% of individuals that went onto the CSC developed mental health issues. 95%.
95%.
And I realized the after effects as well, even in regards to myself as well. My wife has actually identified this as well, that sometimes I go into my quiet stage. My wife gets frustrated with me, like, saying, why aren't you talking? What is their problem? But it's not that. It's just that sometimes it's just, I don't know. It happens. I can think of a memory and then I just shut down. And then I'm just thinking about it
by
and I'm
yourself,
just
basically.
by myself. And it's not healthy.
I have the same thing. You just want to shut down. You don't want to hear nothing from no one. Whatever.
And those that haven't been subjected to that won't understand. They're just thinking that sometimes, what's his problem? Is he being rude? It's not that. But there's some days as well, and I think, and it's not even so much about what happened to me, but when I sometimes think about my brothers, there was one brother as well. He was being beaten so much, and I couldn't even help him.
By prison officers?
Yeah, I couldn't even help him.
In the segregation?
Yeah. And they would tell him, where's your Allah? There was, again, there's always this Allah Akbar, like, they say in their ways.
What was the reason, what the justification to beat him like that?
So what they used to do as well is applications. They knew the certain time we were going to pray. So they know we're not going to break our prayer. So then they'll come around and say, applications, but already we're praying. So how can I respond to you? Then they say, oh, so that means a no. Close your flap. So that means that I've dismissed my shower, opportunity for showers, phone calls, and things such as that. Very smart. Because sometimes you expect them to come early in the morning, sometimes they might come in the afternoon. They might time it as soon as when you're praying.
Like I said, it seems to be very calculated on their part. They know what they're doing. And you can't say every single officer's on board, like you said, because there were some okay ones.
Of course.
That you came across.
But we need to put them in a position as well. And so this is why that I'm suggesting as well that we can collaborate something, because there is some good officers, and I believe that they've been hindered as well into the positions that they could truly make changes. There's good officers like Mr. Fojojo, Officer Jones. These are officers that I've known that stood up for integrity. No one's ever doubted that. AG. But do they get to those other roles in those positions? No, they don't. So we need...
Maybe they could be the whistleblowers on this.
Maybe we need to... They're in lower categories.
Okay.
So we need them to go up the categories.
But they might not let them up because of their,
this is correct,
positions and stuff like that.
So this is why I'm actually saying as well, I'm here to find a solution to a problem. A very grave problem.
MashaAllah. But one thing I say, speaking to you, we've been here for nearly 4 hours.
Oh wow.
And we've been here for 4 hours nearly. One thing I say, mashallah, the psychological torture that you went through, alhamdulillah, is still here, faculties, alhamdulillah, intact, everything, and thank Allah for that. They definitely they were telling you, we are going to break you. They're telling you, basically, we're going to make you go mad. That's what they mean by break you, that we're going to make you go into, what's it called, Broadmoor. Alhamdulillah, you survived it. You're out here. Just to end the podcast with this, tell the people what you're doing now. So you've been out 14 months. They've eased up some of these restrictions on you now. What you're doing, in the community, in your life, work and stuff like that now.
Yeah, so I've actually just been given a position. I'm still waiting for it to be finalised, but with St. Giles Trust. So
they help people with housing, right?
No. So St. Giles Trust is a charitable organisations that work with young and old people, but the role that I will be playing as well is an embedded mentor. So going into schools and dealing with what they will consider to be at-risk children.
And they can relate as well,
No, 101%. But I would like to also say as well to anybody that do have any kind of organisations, and I'm here.
So all his Instagram links and that will be in the description box below. So if anyone wants to contact him, they will contact him directly. And anything you want to say before we cut this off?
No, I'd just like to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity. And assalamu alaikum to my brothers, and peace and universal love for the rest of the humanity. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Anyway, guys, I'll be back soon. Peace.
Guys, today's podcast is in partnership with Stone & Co Solicitors, experts in serious and complex criminal matters. If you have a criminal matter that you need help with, or you've been arrested and want the best representation, contact the number below or drop them an email. All the information is on the screen below, as you can see. Stone & Co can offer specialist criminal defence services on a private basis or legal aid, so you don't pay nothing. And as a promotional offer, they're offering a case review in person or over the phone, free of charge, no obligation, no fees, and they'll take a look at your case, guys.